These are creepy TikToks that will make you rethink your whole reality.
This picture shows the Apollo 1 crew praying as a joke. None of them made it back alive. On January 27, 1967, the Apollo 1 spacecraft went into flames, burning the 3 crew to death.
These are eerie photos with a terrifying backstory, part 1. This is a picture of First Lady Rosalind Carter in 1978, shaking hands with a serial killer named John Wayne Gacy, who was active in politics at the time. By the time this photo was taken, John Wayne Gacy had already killed 20 young men.
I'm back, it's your boy FITTI to the E, and today we're looking at this compilation together. So grab your water, your popcorn, whatever you want. If you guys like this chain, check the link down below. We have free shipping going out right now, so you guys can get a chain. They look really good. A lot of people have been liking them. We have a lot of reviews, so check the link down in the description.
Cannibal facts that'll eat at you for days. If you thought Jeffrey Dahmer was picky for not eating people with tattoos, Venezuelan serial killer Dorangel Vargas, who ate 10 people, didn't like his victims to be overweight because he thought that they contained too much cholesterol. On Thanksgiving Day 1991, 23-year-old Omaima Nelson stabbed her sugar daddy William before carving him up and cooking his head in a deep fryer and eating him for dinner. In the 1970s, Jorge Negromonte, also known as the Brazilian Sweeney Todd, would bake his victims into pies before selling them to local townsfolk. After murdering and eating his classmate in 1981, Issei Sagawa was released from prison because of a loophole in Japanese law. Since then, he's actually profited off the crime, writing books, appearing on talk shows, and starring in adult films where he bites his fellow co-stars. In 2001, a man named Armin Maiwis posted an ad on a website called Cannibal Cafe looking for someone to be killed and eaten. A German engineer named Bernd Brandis volunteered, and after photos and videos of the incident were posted online, Armin was sent to jail, where today, he's a vegetarian. In 1904, a Swedish sailor named Carl Pettersson shipwrecked on an island inhabited by cannibals. He was captured and taken to a local king, whose daughter actually fell in love with him. The two then got married, had 9 kids, and Carl became the new king.
I really wonder what drives a human to do that to another human. If it's survival of the fittest, you know what I'm saying? Like, eat or die. It comes down to a situation like that, you might fold. If there's a lot more animals, a lot more food in the world, why would you want to do that to a human though?
I hadn't heard of the story of Ori's chef, but after looking this up, I'm now really wishing I hadn't heard about this. The story is about this woman, along with a group of people who found her Facebook, as well as something very, very disturbing. To start this off, everything is very normal at first about her Facebook page. She describes herself as a banker, she's a mom, she's married to her husband, but what caught people's attention is that all of her friends are just other profiles of her. Someone calls her out on it, and she actually responds to it, and she says that she just makes extra profiles so she can get like in-game rewards for Facebook games, something like that. But this page gets a lot darker and a lot stranger. For one, it is like littered with graphic posts of animals. If you go a bit deeper, she also starts talking about wanting to eat people, specifically non-adults. This entire saga ends with one final post where she puts up a very, very chilling image. This photo. And this photo without context.
Facebook, yo, Facebook is kind of falling off. I swear to God, people don't really use Facebook anymore. It's usually like Instagram, you know, TikTok is a big one right now, but I like YouTube personally. Like, I just be on YouTube all the time.
These are eerie photos with a terrifying backstory, part 1. This is a picture of First Lady Rosalind Carter in 1978, shaking hands with a serial killer named John Wayne Gacy, who was active in politics at the time. By the time this photo was taken, John Wayne Gacy had already killed 20 young men. This picture is even signed to John Wayne Gacy saying, "To John Gacy, best wishes, Rosalind Carter." Next up is a picture of serial killer John Edward Robinson, who is in the yellow sweater holding the baby named Tiffany Stassi, whose mother he murdered the day before. He later gave baby Tiffany to his brother, saying she was adopted. His brother, along with Tiffany, didn't find out the truth for 15 years.
Yo, that was a crazy twist towards the end of that. He really eliminated the mom and then gave the baby to his bro. Yo, I wonder how they found out though.
This story will send a chill down your spine. This is the ride. A guy named Brad moved to a small town in Georgia and was settling in, meeting his new neighbors. And he learned that most of the residents there believed that one of the back roads that led in and out of town was haunted. But Brad didn't believe in ghosts, so he never really asked much about it. One day, he went to visit a buddy who lived an hour outside of town. The two ended up going to dinner and stayed out late, much later than he had planned. And by the time he left for home, it was late, around midnight. As he was driving, the road was pitch black. He could barely even see ahead of him. He was almost home when he squinted to see a woman walking along the road alone. Normally, he would have driven past, but it was late and it was about to start storming any second, so he decided to offer her a ride. She got into his car and held her hands up to the vents to capture the warmth, eventually taking off her jacket when she warmed up. And it was good timing as it started storming as soon as she got in the car. She thanked Brad for picking her up and said her name was Eve and directed him to her home. Eve was kind and just seemed lost. They eventually pulled up to her house, she thanked him again, and she went inside. But when Brad got home, he discovered that she had left her jacket in his car. He wanted to return it, so the next morning he drove back to the house where he dropped her off and rang the bell. An older woman answered the door and he handed her the jacket. Brad said, "I gave your daughter Eve a ride home last night and she left this in my car." It was then the woman began to cry. As she wiped away the tears, the woman said, "My daughter Eve was struck by a hit-and-run driver years ago. It happened on that back road, and when she was hit, she was wearing a jacket just like this one." After that, Brad became a believer and knew why all the locals spoke so often of that road being haunted. He just had no idea that he would end up giving that ghost a ride home.
You know how trippy that must be? Just be like, yeah, you know, your daughter gave me this. And then you're just like, oh, well, she actually died wearing this. If I was the mom, I'd look at him like, was it you? I'd be a little bit suspect. That's just me.
Please do, Bunny Man. Something is not quite right with this rabbit. This is a human-sized bunny with extremely long arms and human-like hands. Looking at this photo just gives you the feeling that something is wrong. This creature was created by Trevor Henderson in 2018, and he also created some lore to go along with it. The story goes like there were two people hunting for cryptids in the woods at a campsite one night. When in the middle of the night, the guy woke up and heard the girl yelling for help out in the woods in the distance. He raced out of his tent and into the woods, and then he realized that he couldn't find the girl anywhere. And that's when he heard her calling his name again, but this time he heard her calling for him from the campsite. She had never left, and something was mimicking her. The man was about to run back to the campsite when something grabbed his ankle and pulled him backwards. That thing, obviously, was the Bunny Man.
What's your guys' favorite dog? Put it down in the comments.
Fairy tales with surprisingly dark origins. The Little Mermaid. The original fairy tale begins the same as the Disney movie that we all know and love. The Little Mermaid falls in love with a prince living on the mainland, and strikes a deal to give up her voice in exchange for a chance to live happily ever after in his arms. However, this is where the similarities between the two tales comes to an end, because in the book, she doesn't just give up her voice. It is stated that with every step she takes, it feels like daggers are piercing her feet. In addition, she also fails in her mission to make the prince love her like she loves him, so the evil sea witch gives her another ultimatum: end his life and turn back into a mermaid, or perish herself. Blinded by love, the Little Mermaid refuses the witch's demands, and is immediately turned into sea foam forever as punishment. Comment if I should continue this series and what fairy tale I should do next, and follow for more.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like the Little Mermaid's actual story. It's not like the Disney, oh my god, everything's amazing. It's like, yeah, but like imagine being turned into something forever. You know how scary that reality is?
This is what would happen if all oceans on Earth froze. Okay, if more than half of the Earth was covered in ice, the Earth would reflect enormous amounts of sunlight. This would disrupt the planet's water cycle, and Earth would become as dry as the South Pole or even parts of the Sahara. Next, the oceans freezing over would most likely mean mass extinction of many species of animals. And without fish, seafood would no longer be a reliable staple of many diets. Next up, the oceans, specifically the phytoplankton, produce between 50 to 85% of all oxygen in our atmosphere, which means billions of people and animals would suffocate. And if you manage to be one of the very few survivors, eventually oxygen levels could go back to normal. But the earth would never be the same again.
I like seafood, so if the ocean gets frozen, I'm mad. I'm like, yo, where's my fish at?
This is why you should never let your curiosity get the best of you. This story is called The Thing That Drifted Ashore by Junji Ito, and after reading it, I'm pretty sure I'm never going near the ocean again. So let's get into the story. One day, the body of a giant creature washes ashore and everyone in town goes to see what it is. And this creature looks absolutely grotesque. Its head is covered in eyes and it has transparent skin. Scientists believed it to be some kind of prehistoric life form, and its body was around 30 meters long. But as people got closer, curious to get a better look at this creature, they saw something they could not believe. They saw faces protruding from its skin, and they were human faces. So they decided to open up the creature to set these people free, only to find that they're the dozens and dozens of people who went missing during a shipwreck 7 years ago. Somehow, after they were swallowed by this creature, they managed to survive by becoming parasites, absorbing all the nutrients taken in by this creature. One of the people in the crowd even found his missing fiance inside the creature. So obviously they called ambulances to get these people medical help. But as soon as the people inside this creature managed to crawl out, they started screaming and growling. And some of their hands have even become webbed like fins. After investigating, it was determined that every single one of them were driven insane from living as parasites for 7 years inside the stomach of this creature. Follow for more stories.
That's actually a very interesting story. That's why I like Japanese story, because it has such like a twist on it. Like, I wonder how those people ended up evolving in just 7 years. Like, that's kind of strange.
This be evidence that Bigfoot exists. On October 20th, 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were riding horseback along the banks of Bluff Creek in Northern California's Six Rivers National Forest. All of a sudden, something in the distance frightened their horses, and this is what they captured on footage. Despite the fact that the clip was shot with 1960s equipment, the footage is the most famous, most debated, but never definitively debunked video capture of a supposed Bigfoot. However, many still wonders if these two men actually saw Bigfoot, and more importantly,
I'm trying to figure out what's the difference between Bigfoot and a gorilla. Let's say you see a big gorilla, like a big gorilla, huge gorilla. Are you gonna record it like, oh my god, it's Bigfoot?
To anyone who may be triggered by these topics, or anyone who's faint of heart, please keep scrolling. Serial Killers from Every U.S. State, Part 22. Michigan. Elias Abulazam, aka the Serial Stabber. He was known as the Serial Stabber because between 2009 and 2010, Elias Abulazam stabbed 18 people in Flint, Michigan. Of those 18, 5 people were killed. His stabbings became national news when he crossed state lines to stab even more people. Some believe his stabbings were racially motivated because the majority of his victims were African American. He was sentenced to life in prison for his crimes and remains there to this day.
I'm trying to figure out what we did to that dude. Like, why has it got to be majority us? People be tripping, bro. I'm like, come on, dude. Just trying to mind my business and you just want to stab? Come on, G.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory part 2. This picture shows the Apollo 1 crew praying as a joke. None of them made it back alive. On January 27, 1967, the Apollo 1 spacecraft went into flames, burning the 3 crew to death.
Yo, that gave me chills, man. They were praying as a joke, like, and then boom. Damn, you know how messed up that must be? I mean, I don't know if that's messed up, but like, that's probably bad karma. There's a lot of things that humans can't see.
She had no idea that after a fun night out, something followed her home. This is the chilling story of the uninvited guest. For a friend's birthday, Chloe and a few of their pals decided to book a tour of a haunted home on the other side of town. Chloe didn't believe in ghosts or any of that stuff, but agreed and thought it would be a funny night out. The night of, the group met up with the ghost hunter Steve, who gave the tour. He was really quirky and was obviously a big believer in the supernatural. Steve told the group that through prior investigations, they found the original owners of the 1900s mansion tragically passed in the home, and since it seemed to be some kind of a spiritual portal. There were reportedly numerous ghosts there, some tied to the home and others that seemed to be there just to cause trouble. Chloe laughed and honestly thought the whole thing was kind of comical. They did the standard tour, turning off all the lights, and Steve placed groups in different rooms of the home, and just as she guessed, nothing happened. As she left, she made a comment to Steve saying, "Well, I guess the ghost took the night off." They all went to get dinner and drinks afterwards, and Chloe finally got back to her apartment around midnight. She got ready for bed, lay down, and couldn't have been asleep for more than 10 minutes when all of a sudden she felt the sensation that someone had sat down on the bed next to her. The bed creaked and she felt a freezing cold breeze. She immediately jumped up and turned on the light, but there was no one there. She tried to brush it off, woke up the next morning, and got ready to walk to Pilates. It was only a 10-minute walk, and she made a turn down an empty street when suddenly, coming up from behind her, she felt that freezing air again and then heard a mischievous laugh in her ear. She turned around and again, no one there. That night, she got into bed and after an hour of tossing and turning, finally fell asleep. Just a short time later, she heard the unmistakable sounds of her floorboards creaking in her hallway, as if someone was walking around out there. She froze in fear and suddenly felt that cold breeze again, and felt someone standing over her. She jumped up, turned on the lights, and again, no one there. She was so desperate the next day she called Steve, the tour guide, and told him what had been going on since she left. He didn't sound surprised at all and said that he had seen spirit attachments before. He also noted the fact that Chloe made a joke of the home and the ghosts on the tour, that a spirit may have heard that and taken it as some kind of a challenge. He told her she needed to speak directly to the spirit and tell it that it wasn't welcome anymore. The moment she did, the energy shifted and the activity completely stopped. She never joked about that kind of stuff again. You never know who or what may follow you home to prove you wrong.
The government is hiding something terrifying. The US Navy set off a 40,000-pound bomb in the Atlantic Ocean, 100 miles off the coast of Florida, saying it was just a military exercise. However, if you watch the footage, it really doesn't look like a normal military exercise, but instead something terrifying. It's known there is unknown creatures or aliens living deep in the ocean, so could it be possible that it really wasn't a military exercise, but instead a cover-up to take out a deadly threat in the ocean, knowing they can't tell the public because the panic it will start?
I mean, I kind of think that's a little bit messed up to know that if there's a huge creature that could possibly get you killed. A lot of people could go on a cruise ship, go fishing, go, you know what I'm saying, go in the ocean just to get obliterated. So honestly, it might have actually been a military drill if you ask me. I wonder if they ever found the bodies. Man, that should be so tragic, bro. Hopefully they died instantly and didn't have to suffer anything. For a second, I thought there was no one on it, but I also know that there was a kid that died I think last year or 2 years ago from a ride exactly like that one. So if you guys like that ride, put it down in the comments.
Just found footage tapes.
We actually saw that clip in another video. In my opinion, that's kind of weird and scary, man. A lot of times I watch these videos, I think to myself, like, what really promotes someone to do something like that and record it and send it to his homie Omar?
Today I'm going to be talking about one of the most famous alleged ghost photos captured to date. In 1976, Ed and Lorraine Warren were among the first to investigate the Amityville house in Long Island, New York. Less than 2 years after the DeFeo family met a tragic end at the hands of Ronald DeFeo Jr., which I will be doing another video on later. During the investigation, paranormal photographer Gene Campbell set up an automatic camera that took infrared photos of the second floor landing throughout the night. Many rolls of film were developed, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first, until they came across this photograph. There appeared to be a young boy in the photo, although there were no children there that night. It is believed by many to be the ghost of 9-year-old John DeFeo, and there's no denying it. There are some eerie similarities when you compare a photo of John DeFeo to the one that was captured. There hasn't been much explanation behind this photo, and many have tried debunking it, but today it still remains a mystery. So what do you think? Do you think that this is the ghost of 9-year-old John DeFeo, or perhaps something more evil pretending to be him? Let me know in the comments.
Man, ghosts or not, I'm leaving that house. After I see something like that, I'm like, bro, I'm not living here anymore.
This is the terrifying story about the Bunny Man. In 1902, This is the terrifying story about the Bunny Man. In 1902, a bus carrying mental patients crashed. All the inmates were recaptured except one man named Douglas Griffin. He was said to be extremely obsessed with rabbits, and in the coming weeks, rabbit corpses were found all over town. His thirst for blood did not stop as he then put on an Easter Bunny costume and interacted with kids in the local town. And after finding out where they lived, he would then break into their house and murder their parents with an axe, and then kidnap the children after. People then started reporting sightings of him under a bridge, and one night he was hit by a train and killed after trying to escape. However, to this day, people still report sightings of seeing a man dressed up in a bunny outfit, holding an axe under the bridge. And it is said if he makes eye contact with you, you are not getting out of there alive.
That Bunny Man story reminded me of clowns. You know the 2016 clowns that used to go around on Halloween haunting kids? Yeah, except the clowns didn't really go inside people's house hurting their parents and then taking the children. So I'd say actually it really doesn't remind me of the clowns. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Remember to check these chains out down in the description.
Cosmonauts encountered angels. In 1984, 3 cosmonauts encountered something unexplainable aboard the Salyut 7 space station. Well, you see, the cosmonauts were studying the Earth's atmosphere when the space station's interior started flooding with a warm golden light. Trying to find the source of illumination, they peered out of the porthole, and to their astonishment, they saw several ethereal humanoid figures, each measuring approximately 10 meters in height, sporting delicate wings and serene expressions. And as unbelievable as it may sound, the cosmonauts documented the whole incident, capturing photos and making detailed notes for a whole 10 minutes before the apparitions vanished. Some speculated that this could either be an extraterrestrial encounter or something of divine presence, while others dismissed it as hallucinations. But till this day, no one has an explanation for what was witnessed.
That's actually funny they said that, because I remember during one of the documentaries I watched, they said during the moon landing, astronauts were actually seeing other objects while on the moon. So it could be those same entities. Do you guys even believe we landed on the moon? We never went back after we did it the first time. So what do you guys think about the moon landing? Put your thoughts down in the comments.
Morbid Facts, Part 74. A South African man named Martin Pistorius lived through anyone's worst nightmare. When he was 12 years old, Martin got sick and fell into a coma where he remained in a vegetative state for 12 years. Or at least, that's what doctors thought. Because 2 years into the coma, Martin regained consciousness but was unable to show any sign of it. He had entered a state known as locked-in syndrome, where the patient is aware but can't move or communicate due to complete paralysis of all voluntary muscles other than the eyes. So he was trapped in a lifeless state for more than a decade while being fully aware of everything going on around him. He said the worst part was when his caretaker would sit him in front of baby TV shows like Barney and Teletubbies all day long. On multiple occasions, he also heard his mother say, "I hope you die." Luckily, his caretaker eventually noticed that he was responding to her words with his eyes, and doctors finally confirmed that he was conscious. Today, Martin can speak through a computer and move with a wheelchair, but will be forever haunted.
If you could imagine just sitting in one area all day with full consciousness and not being able to move, talk, walk, eat, and communicate with people around you while everyone's trying to communicate with you, that's literally mental torture.
These are celebrities with disturbing connections to serial killers, Part 1. Up first, Ashton Kutcher stumbled upon an active murder scene of Michael the Hollywood Ripper Gargulio, and he later played a huge role in putting the serial killer behind bars. Ashton Kutcher was supposed to go on a date with the girl one night, and he told the girl he would pick her up at 10. But as 10 o'clock came closer, he tried calling her and she never answered. He then went to her apartment and looked through the window and saw what he thought was red wine stains on the couch and floor. Assuming she didn't want to go on a date with him, he just left. But the truth was, her body was lying dead in the bathroom. It was the Hollywood Ripper who did it. Kutcher then testified and established a timeline for the murder, which really helped the Hollywood Ripper get convicted and sentenced to death. Next up, Woody Harrelson's father was actually a hitman for hire and responsible for at least a dozen murders, including that of a federal judge and possibly even President John F. Kennedy. We all think Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated John F. Kennedy, but Charles Harrelson, Woody Harrelson's dad, said he was way too far away to make the shot.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do believe that the CIA killed JFK, and I feel like that's more of a fact now than an opinion. It's kind of hard to say, but I know a lot of people do, in fact, believe that the CIA was the one that killed JFK.
Unsettling images ahead.
Hi, so I want to make a long video about this on YouTube, but of course you guys get the spark notes first. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. In the last couple of months, artificial intelligence have been taken to new heights. For example, now you can listen to people like XXXTentacion or Michael Jackson or Biggie Smalls, people that have been passed away for quite some time. You can listen to them drop new music unofficially on YouTube channels with the help of AI. Where things start to cross into terrifying and uncanny valley territory is when you start getting into the world of AI generated art. The most prominent example that I can give to you would be the case of LOAB. If you have not heard of LOAB, allow me to tell you the entirety of the story. This all comes from Twitter user and artist Supercomposite when she went onto an AI text-to-image generator and really wanted to test the limitations of the AI. Obviously, this isn't the exact same thing that she put in there. I'm just using this as a reference. But what she put into the prompt box was Brando, ::1. Brando is the last name of the actor Marlon Brando, who we know from Godfather's Part 1 and 2. The semicolons are meant to separate the different values, and -1 is basically telling the AI that she wants an image as far away from Brando as it could possibly get. To break that down even further, all she wanted to do was to see what the AI thought the furthest thing from Marlon Brando was, and that is what the -1 input means, to get as far away from the original prompt as possible. When the AI was finally finished with the prompt and generated the image, this is what popped up. It is Digita Pentax over a black skyline. Just as you thought, Digita Pentax means nothing. It is gibberish, and the skyline means nothing as well. So what she thought was, okay, if this is the exact opposite of Marlon Brando, if I put Digita Pentax into the prompt box and generate, will it then give me a picture of Marlon Brando? No. No, it did not. Because instead, it gave her LOAB, or as I call it, LOAB, because there's an A there. As you can probably tell, the only reason she calls it LOAB or LOAB is because that's the only discernible word that she could have made out and put into another prompt. That is exactly what she did. She took LOAB or LOAB and she put it into the prompt box and hit generate. And what followed was quite disturbing. Because instead of the AI just generating a brand new image from that prompt, it just kept generating the same woman over and over again. Super Composite took the image of LOAB and then crossbred it with another AI generated image that her friend had made to try and either completely negate LOAB out of the picture or at least attach LOAB to the other picture, which was a picture of a beautiful sunset or whatever it may be. Maybe it would have the picture of LOAB in the sunset looking at least a little less terrifying. Instead, all it did was amplify the creepiness of what LOAB is and showed her in more grotesque images as she continued to generate. As in, for this one, it shows LOAB and another woman with what looks like a deformed baby in the middle. In this picture is also a more deformed and grotesque version of LOAB, but only this time it looked like she had committed a murder. The more Super Composite messed around with LOAB and what else it could do, the more grotesque and disturbing the images became. For example, this image, which has the appearance of several shrunken heads, and also you can clearly make out that this is or was LOAB's face. Finally, perhaps the most disturbing photo I have to show you is this one. All of that came from Brando, ::1. Of course, all pictures are belonging to Super Composite, and if you would like to keep up with the LOAB story, because yes, it is still going on, you can go follow her on Twitter and check out her progress as she works through what exactly LOAB is. Want to watch a video on it? I highly recommend Nextpo's video on AI art because it is very interesting and very terrifying.
LOAB? I don't even know who LOAB is, but that was hella disturbing. That was disgusting. Ew.
This castle has a prison inside with a very gruesome history, and Larry is supposed to be helping, but yet again he's gotten distracted, so I'll tell you guys what's happened, but he's gonna have to start pulling his weight soon. This is Colchester Castle, and there are so many horrific stories about this place, but today I'm going to tell you about one of the worst. James Parnell was an 18-year-old Quaker who was arrested after disrupting a church service. He was charged with blasphemy and taken to the county jail in Colchester Castle. He was acquitted and fined £40, but didn't pay for unknown reasons, and so he remained imprisoned. And this is where it gets bloody. He was treated extremely cruelly by his captors, and was made to climb a rope to retrieve what little food they provided him with. On one occasion, he fell while climbing the rope and was badly injured. Left in considerable pain, his health began to deteriorate. Eventually, he died due to being so weak that he could not eat. He was given the nickname of the Boy Martyr and is often credited as the first to die for the Quaker faith. Buried in an unmarked grave on the castle grounds, visitors of Colchester Castle still hear his ghost screaming in.
Unit 731 was a covert research and development unit of the Imperial Japanese Army during the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II. This unit specialized in biological and chemical warfare and engaged in horrific human experimentation and the production of biological weapons. Its actions resulted in the deaths of an estimated 200,000 to 300,000 people. The victims were subjected to a range of cruel experiments, including disease injections, dehydration, biological weapons testing, hypobaric pressure chamber testing, vivisection, and amputations. Some individuals had their limbs amputated to study blood loss, and at times, the severed limbs were reattached to the opposite side of their bodies. Stomachs were surgically removed, with the esophagus then reattached to the intestines in certain cases. Other victims had parts of their organs, such as the brain, lungs, and liver, forcibly removed. In addition, subjects were subjected to excruciating trials, including deprivation of food and water to determine the time until death, exposure to low-pressure chambers until their eyes bulged out, experimentation on the effects of temperature and burns on human survival, and execution by hanging upside down. They were also crushed with heavy objects, electrocuted, dehydrated with hot fans, exposed to deadly centrifugal forces, injected with animal blood like horse blood, exposed to lethal doses of X-rays, tested with chemical weapons inside gas chambers, injected with seawater, being burned or buried alive. The extent of suffering and cruelty inflicted upon these victims is beyond comprehension.
Yeah, I've actually did a whole video on that before I started this series that you guys like right now. You can check out the video, should be popping up right here. I did do a story time on 731, and it's actually described as the Japanese Auschwitz.
This would have been the most disturbing way to die. These are the 48 seconds of horror the passengers on board the Titan submersible went through before the Titan completely imploded. So this isn't confirmed, but a sub-expert and a merchant marine said that this is a very probable scenario, and is most likely what happened to the Titan. According to the expert, the Titan was descending calmly until about 5,500 feet, at which point it had an electrical failure, and that's when it got real. At that point, the expert believes the Titan would have started to quickly plunge, straight down at a vertical angle, just like throwing a rock into a body of water. And he believes it would have done that for about 48 to 71 seconds, till it reached the depths of 8,200 and 8,900 feet, at which point the implosion would have taken place. The weight of everyone in the sub would have been around 880 pounds, and they would have basically fallen and collapsed on top of each other, in complete darkness, sinking to the bottom of the ocean, completely aware of the situation going on around them. And all of this is happening in a very fast freefall to the bottom of the ocean. The expert also says by descending so abruptly, the Titan would have been subjected to an extreme amount of pressure, and combined with the pressure that was already in the sub, meaning it would have been so quick and the people inside would have died instantly. But that freefall from 48 to 71 seconds, free falling in the pitch darkness towards the bottom of the ocean, is so scary to think about, and I can't imagine being in that situation.
Yeah, I've actually heard the actual recordings of what happened with the Titan, and I would say it's a good thing that they died instantly. They didn't feel any sort of pain, any sort of suffering, so that's good for them. But I will say, you know how scary it must have been going down, just hearing it just creak and crackle every time you just go lower? Like, you probably just look around like, why does it make black? I'd be tight. I'd be so mad.
Let's talk about the horror movie iceberg. The way that this works, as the movies go progressively down the list, the more and more gory and horrific they get. As you can see above the water, you have movies like Saw, House of a Thousand Corpses, Hostel, etc. But as you get lower, especially if you're not as big into horror, you probably won't recognize like half the names on this list. And I see a lot of content creators on here turn this into some sort of challenge, a thing that they tell their audience, like, oh yeah, see what you can handle. I am not here to do that to you. I have seen a few of the films that are below the water. And I just gotta be honest with you, these movies are not horror films. I would say 99% of the movies that are under the water are just snuff, gore, or fetish films that are being disguised as horror movies. Like, literally half of these movies are just vomit fetishist directors just making their movies. Obviously, I can't stop you. Watch whatever you want.
If I'm being honest, I saw Suburban film in there and it was like the third layer. I was like, bro, I watched a little bit of that. Not even like the whole thing, just like a little bit. And I was like, ew, disgusting. So imagine the ones at the bottom.
The Ammons haunting case, also known as the Indiana Demon House case, is a chilling paranormal investigation that gained significant attention due to its disturbing and unexplained phenomena. It revolves around the Ammons family, who claim to have experienced terrifying supernatural occurrences in their home in Gary, Indiana, during the years 2011 and 2012. LaToya Ammons, the mother of 3 children, first noticed strange phenomena shortly after moving into the rental house on Carolina Street. The family began experiencing unexplained phenomena, including footsteps, disembodied voices, and strange shadow figures. As the activity intensified, they realized they were dealing with something far beyond their understanding. One of the most unsettling incidents involved LaToya's 12-year-old daughter levitating above her bed, reportedly with a trance-like expression. The family also reported feeling a sinister presence in the house, witnessing mysterious wet footprints appearing on the floor, and witnessing their children being thrown across the room by an unseen force. The younger son of the Ammons family was said to have exhibited unsettling behavior during the haunting. Witnesses claimed that he displayed a disturbing phenomenon where his eyes rolled into the back of his head, and he uttered chilling phrases such as, "It's time to die," and "I will kill you." Alarmed by the escalating events, LaToya sought help from various religious figures, including local churches and clairvoyants, but none were successful in alleviating the disturbing activity. Eventually, the family turned to local authorities for assistance. When the case came to the attention of the Department of Child Services, DCS, officials became involved due to concerns about the children's safety. DCS case manager Valerie Washington visited the home and allegedly witnessed bizarre incidents, such as one of the children being lifted and thrown against the wall by an invisible force. These encounters led Washington to believe that an evil presence was haunting the family. Paranormal investigators, including renowned demonologist Reverend Michael Maginot, were also called in to investigate. They documented anomalous audio recordings, witnessed furniture moving on its own, and reported feeling intense cold spots and malevolent energy within the house. As news of the Ammons family's haunting spread, it attracted national and international media attention, generating both fascination and skepticism. Skeptics questioned the credibility of the family's claims, attributing the incidents to mental health issues or elaborate hoaxes. However, those directly involved in the case maintained the authenticity of their experiences. Ultimately, the Ammons family moved out of the house in 2012, leaving the haunted property behind. Although the paranormal activity ceased after their departure, the case remains a subject of intense debate and intrigue in the paranormal community. The Ammons haunting case serves as a chilling reminder of the unknown forces that can sometimes infiltrate our lives. Whether one believes in the supernatural or not, the unexplained events experienced by the Ammons family continue to raise profound questions about the nature of reality.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the fact that it stopped as soon as they left is a little bit suspect. It's a little bit strange, if I do say so myself. But I also do think that the spirits could have just been attached to the family. It might not be the house itself, but maybe like the family might have did something in the past, or the kid might have picked up something that could have caused them to get haunted.
Was alone with her daughter one night when this happened. User Mixie uploaded a disturbing video where she explains that at 11 p.m. while recording a video of her daughter to send to her husband, she captures this. Her daughter is seen talking to someone we can't see. But suddenly, this happens. She asks whatever's in the room with them to go away as she runs towards her mother.
From the ages of 1 to 7, your brain is in a state known as theta, which basically means you're pretty much unconscious during those first 7 years. That's why people always say, yeah, I don't know, I just woke up one day and I was like 8 years old. That's when consciousness really started to like have a hold on you. And your brain being in that theta state, that's what's really creating imaginary friends for children or imaginary scenarios. Like, you're pretty imaginative. So in my opinion, that baby was probably just tripping, or just, you know, just having fun, just being like creative with its imagination.
Creepy things to never ask Google. Don't ask, show me everything Facebook knows about. Google will lead you to an article that exposes the dark secrets of how Facebook functions. Don't ask, am I in the Matrix right now? It will result in the following iconic answer. Would you like the red pill or blue pill?
Yeah, I heard that Facebook literally like tracks everything we do. Yo, Zuckerberg need to chill out, bro. Like, it's really not that serious.
Never Tell Me the Odds, Part 26. In 1974, a photographer was snapping photos of 2 amateur street mimes in Central Park. 35 years later, he discovered that one of them was actor Robin Williams before he became famous. Alexander I of Yugoslavia refused to make a public appearance on a Tuesday after 3 of his family members died on a Tuesday. After finally being forced to appear on a Tuesday, he was promptly assassinated. A Reddit user from California was gaming in his room when a stray bullet went through his window and struck him in the head. But he was miraculously saved by his Razer headset, which prevented the bullet from piercing his skull. Speaking of skulls, in 1983, a British man confessed to the murder of his wife after a female skull was found in a peat bog near his home. He was convicted of her 1961 murder based on this confession. But it turned out that the skull actually belonged to a woman who had died 1800 years earlier.
That's crazy. So that means they really found the wrong person's skull, and bro admitted it because he thought it was his wife's. Damn.
Alright, so I made a video talking about Art the Clown versus Pennywise yesterday, and I basically said that Pennywise would win. But a bunch of you guys in the comments did not agree with it whatsoever. Including Zoom Solos. This dude says Pennywise dies to being bullied. Did we watch the same fucking movie? Yeah, Pennywise did definitely get bullied into a little pancake, but that is not the reason he fucking died. The only reason he died is because the Loser Club did something called the Ritual of Chud. And for those that don't know what the Ritual of Chud is, it's something that causes the friend group to become a lot stronger as a whole, and something that causes Pennywise to become a lot weaker as a whole. Now let's go to the next thing people were saying in the comments. They were saying, oh, Pennywise, he hunts off fear. Art doesn't get scared of anything, so he wouldn't be able to hunt Art down. I'm sorry, but that is not the case, like, at all. I understand that to Pennywise, fear makes these kids taste like a 5-star meal. It makes them taste like some shit that Ratatouille made. But Pennywise does not strictly hunt off of fear. Fear makes shit 100 times better, don't get me wrong. But Pennywise does not need you to be scared of him to catch a fucking body, like, whatsoever. Cause I can guarantee that Adrian from It Chapter 2 had no idea who Pennywise was, but he still got his ass smoked. Hell, I can guarantee that the little girl from the football game had no idea who Pennywise was. I guarantee she had no fear of him at all either, but as we saw, that don't fucking matter. Fear is a plus for Pennywise when it comes to hunting, okay? Not a must. He doesn't need everybody to be scared of him, because regardless, he can catch a body. That's without a doubt. It's just that with a little bit of fear, you might taste like a steak rather than not being scared at all and tasting like a Hot Pocket.
This is Larry Nassar, the former doctor to the United States women's gymnastics team, and a serial child molester. Before his fall from grace, Larry was a very well-respected doctor, and he held a very high position in the sports world. From the year 1996 to the year 2014, Larry served as the National Medical Coordinator for the USA Gymnastics team. Basically, he was ensuring that all the competitors on the team were fit, he would treat injuries, he would do checkups, all of that. Allegations that Larry had been attracted to and had been touching minors first surfaced in the early 90s. But it took until the year 2015 for all of this to come to light. So in all of those years, he was allowed to do all of these things to these young girls completely unchecked. So in 2015, a gymnast and her coach reported Larry to the USA Gymnastics officials, and in 2016, USA Gymnastics completely cut ties with Larry. But it turns out that for years, decades, Larry had been touching young minor girls while they were getting exams from him. One former gymnast named Rachel Denhollander stated that Larry had abused her 5 times during 5 doctor visits in the year 2000, when she was a minor. And after these accusations came out, the case was blown wide open, and so many gymnasts came forward and said that Larry had sexually abused them during their checkups, including Simone Biles, who at the time was one of the most famous gymnastic athletes on the planet. According to these girls, when they were minors, Larry would groom them. He would say nice things to them, offer them great benefits. He would send them flirty messages on social media outside of office hours when he knew they were underage. And yeah, like I said, during these examinations, he would frequently touch them, probe them, do all sorts of deplorable things to these girls. Well, this turned into a huge story because apparently even the FBI was involved in the cover-up of this abuse. And a couple of gymnasts, including Michaela Maroney, had to go testify before the US Senate to expose this cover-up. You see, Larry had been protected by the organization he was involved with, and for years he was able to carry on with this pattern of horrific abuse without any sort of checks or ramifications. But finally, that all came to an end. There's so much more to this story, so many more graphic details, including what he did to the girls at a camp in Huntsville, Texas. And as of January of 2018, over 135 women had come forward and stated that Larry Nassar abused them. This was a guy that they trusted, that was hired by the organization they were involved with to help protect them, to make them better, to heal them. And he ended up causing so much damage that's so irreparable, it's horrific. And even later in 2018, a judge stated that they had identified over 265 victims of his serial child molesting. And the judge stated that there were probably so many more that would never come forward that they would never know about. Thankfully though, some justice was eventually served here, and Larry was sentenced to 40 to 125 years in prison. And I think we all know how child molesters get treated in prison. I remember this being a huge scandal when this story broke, and the cover-up and everything. It's just such a sad story, but I have to commend the bravery of the athlete.
Man, I don't understand people like that, bro. Like, how you old and these girls are under 18 and that's just weird, bro. Even if they were under 18 and you're like supposed to be in a professional position, still strange, man.
I have what is believed to be found footage from the Aaron Everwood's videotape. You're not terribly familiar with the story. There was a videotape in 2001 that was dropped off at a police station in South Florida, but what's on it is really what's disturbing here. Just this chilling collection of strange footage that's kind of scrappily compiled together, like analog images of different spots from around this town, from different parts outside of the state. It was haunting because truly nobody knew who was behind this. Why did police fixate on this tape, and why is it called the Aaron Everwood tape? It's because of this image. This is one frame in that video. This is a shot of Aaron Everwood, who was a 19-year-old girl who went missing just about 2 months prior to the tape being found. Police have really scrutinized on this image because she's smiling, but it doesn't look natural. It looks like it's a forced smile, right? Zoom in, it's almost like she's crying.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. The girl in this photo was arrested for torturing and killing animals. She filmed herself doing it and even posted it online.
Ew.
She hanged her dogs by their collars, nailed them to walls, and even shot them with an airsoft gun. She would then cut them open and rip out their internal organs. This sweet looking little girl is Jeannie, also known as the Wild Child, who spent the first 13 years of her life chained to a chair, and this photo was taken moments after she'd just been rescued. This normal looking scenic painting features the ocean with the night sky. However, it was painted by Adolf Hitler, whose dream in life was to become an artist. However, he failed the entrance exam to art school and ultimately gave up. This photo of Richard Hickok and Perry Smith shows 2 murders after hearing that they've been sentenced to death. They murdered a family of 4 and planned to rob them, but they found nothing worth stealing except for a mere $50. The girl on the left is wearing a wire. The girl on the right has no idea. Together they stabbed one of their friends to death, and the girl on the left confessed to the police and is now cooperating with them.
Honestly, that first one where that girl did those things to those animals is so strange to me. In the picture, she looks like a cool female. She was happy to have the dog, but turns out whole time she's doing some serial killer activities to these dogs, man. They do say that animal torture is the first sign of a serial killer, so hopefully she got the help / time she deserved.
Scary facts that will make your skin crawl. Does a portal to another dimension really exist? In 1997, a man by the name of Mel Waters called an American radio show rang, claiming that he had a hole in his backyard that was 80,000 feet deep and supernatural things were starting to happen. Mel claimed that during the day a black beam would shoot out of the hole into the sky. He also said that a neighbor dumped his dead dog's body into the hole, and the next day the dog was outside alive. Mel's property was right next to a military base, and shortly after that first phone call, Mel claimed that the government tried to silence him and pay him out so he would never talk about this hole ever again. And then later a satellite photo was taken of where Mel's property supposedly was, but it was completely blotted out with a big white square. This is actually a clip from the phone call.
I've got Mel on the line. Mel's the guy with the never-ending hole. Right now I'm in a little town called Ellensburg. Oh, I know Ellensburg. Oh, you really think you've got 80,000? Yes. Yeah, I get line in 5,000-yard spools. I've gone through that many. As usual, I brought the dogs with me. They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing, and if I try to bring them there on a leash, they'll just dig their feet, and they do not want to go anywhere near the hole.
So, what do you think? Follow along for more.
Yeah, nah, that hole gotta be a portal or something. I mean, that's what they're kind of saying, that it's a portal. But 80,000 feet is really, really deep, bro. I don't even think planes fly at 80,000 feet. Like, that means this hole probably goes to the core of the earth, or even through the earth. I don't even know.
Police believed that this man killed his ex-girlfriend. 3 days later, at her memorial, he turned up and unalived himself. Juan Carlos Mata had been dating 19-year-old Leslie Reese for 1 year between 2022 and 2023. However, when she broke up with him, he apparently had refused to believe that the relationship was over. Leslie's family report that he was abusive to her and toxic. On the 26th of June, it's believed that he waited in the car park of her home. He knew she would be returning home from work soon, and he armed himself with a weapon. It's believed that when he saw her, he shot her in the head. Now, Leslie's parents were nearby and they heard gunshots. Tragically, they tried to ring Leslie to warn her to stay safe. Police actually launched a manhunt for Juan. However, before they could locate him, 3 days after the murder, he returned to the scene of the crime. He stood where flowers were for the murdered victim and unalived himself with a gun.
In my opinion, bro, if you're abusive and toxic to her and then she ends a relationship with you, why are you still trying to pursue that? That is such a toxic mindset. You can tell that he was the bad one in the relationship. Like, come on, man.
Have you ever heard of the red door, yellow door game?
No, I don't think I heard of it.
You haven't? Everybody is putting their phone down and literally recording them playing the game. You have one person that's like laying on their back, right? And another person is going like this to their brain. So the whole point of the game is try to hypnotize the other person so they can visualize different sets of doors, right?
Yeah.
You can open any door you want, but you have to be careful of which door you open. So there's 3 rules. The first rule, if you see a guy in an all black suit, you have to end the game immediately.
Why?
Or else
Why?
he'll kill you in that dream, in that hypnosis.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So if you die like in the dream,
there's actually people that went out of the dream traumatized too, because they were that close. Second rule, if you see any demons or thing talking to you, don't talk to them in that dream.
It's like I've always been saying, man, it's like, why play games like that? Go, if you want to play games, bro, just go on PlayStation, Xbox, go on your own. Phones have games now. Like, you don't gotta be playing no hypnotized game with demons.
I was living in a rural area in Oklahoma with my mother at a small lake house, and I was probably 10 or 11 years old at that time. One night, I randomly and abruptly woke up for no reason, which was not normal for me, and I felt very uneasy. The only sound I could hear was my mother snoring in the next room on the couch. I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep, but my need to use the bathroom was growing more urgent. Grudgingly, I forced myself to head in that direction. The bathroom was on the other side of the house, around a corner and past the kitchen, and finally down a long hallway on the right. After making the trip and finishing my business, I flipped off the light switch and started heading back to bed. That's when I heard the distinct click of the light switch, and I saw the glow of the bathroom light in the hallway. Terrified, I slowly turned around, only to witness the light in the bathroom start clicking on and off. Finally, it shut off completely. In the darkness of the hallway, my eyes began to make out a white shape near the end of the hall. It was around my size and crouched on the floor. At this point, I was frozen to the spot as my mind began to realize that no one else was home except for my mom and me. Then, the white shape began whispering in a quiet man's voice, "Help me. I'm lost." I remember wanting to scream for my mom, but I couldn't. Instead, I barely said, "No," before this thing started running at me, sounding like it was on all fours. I quickly ran through the kitchen and around the corner before heading to my sleeping mother and shaking her awake. I remember saying, "It's coming! It's coming!" and my mother's eyes going from dazed to alert in an instant. She asked me what was going on, and I saw her eyes look over my shoulder before she screamed. Remembering her scream still makes my blood run cold. Never had I heard pure terror like that in my life, even to this day. She grabbed me by the arms, pulled me into my room and slammed the door. She held me in her arms with her back pressed against the door as we listened. It sounded like this thing was running around in circles in the kitchen. We could hear hands and feet slapping against the tile. The kitchen had a sliding glass door to the outside, which sounded like it was thrown open and then slammed. We sat there horrified until daybreak. After that incident, I was sent to my grandmother's in the next town for a while, and I never set foot in that house again. Years later, my mother told me that she went walking around the property after the incident and came across a small burial site with 3 headstones belonging to children from the early 1900s. It freaks me out because what I heard that night was a man's voice, but it was so unnatural. My mom still will not tell me what she saw behind me and what made her scream. She tells me she's afraid it will know we're talking about it and that it will come back.
If I'm being honest, that is very, very creepy, but my first thought is, why is their bathroom so far? Shawty had to do a whole hike just to get to the bathroom.
You'll never guess the clever way that this victim of a serial killer helped police catch him. Richard Evanitz's dad was a sadistic and aggressive man. Richard seemed to inherit this behaviour. When he was a child, he was so violent that he even choked his sister to the point where she actually passed out. When Richard moved out, he was arrested for exposing himself to 2 children. Now, he was only given a fine for this, and he would later go on to begin a horrifying crime spree in Virginia. In June 1995, he broke into the home of a 13-year-old girl. He took a gun with him and used the weapon to gain control over her as he SA'd her. A year later, he kidnapped 16-year-old Sophia Silver. She'd been doing her homework in her front garden when he snatched her. Horrifically, shortly after, her body was discovered in a swamp nearby. Another year passed before he would strike again. He abducted 2 sisters, again from their front garden. The girls were 12 and 15, and tragically their bodies were discovered in the South Anna River. Using fibers from the 2 crime scenes, police were able to link the cases together. In 1999, Richard moved back to his hometown, and a few years later he would strike again. This time, however, he set his sights on Cara Robinson. This would be the beginning of the end for Richard. Cara was only 15 years old, and Richard spotted her watering flowers outside her friend's house. He approached her and kidnapped her at gunpoint. He stuffed her into a storage container and drove away. However, Cara was a very clever girl, and she actually memorized the serial number of the box that she was trapped in. Meanwhile, her parents reported her missing, but police dismissed her as just a runaway. Luckily, Cara took matters into her own hands. Cara endured 18 hours of grueling SAs from Richard, but she knew she had to get him on side if she was to survive. She decided to clean for him and chat to him as if he were a friend. She also memorized information from the post that was scattered around his apartment. As she was tidying up, she was making a mental note of everything around her. At bedtime, despite being handcuffed to his bed, she managed to escape and get out of the window while he was still asleep. She spotted a car and ran to it, begging for help. The driver immediately took her to the police station. Thankfully, using all of the information that Cara had discovered, they managed to track Richard down. However, when they got to his house, he'd actually vanished. He fled to a motel in Florida, rang his sister, and confessed to what he'd done. Luckily, she did the right thing and called police. When officers arrived, there was a massive car chase. Richard ended up driving 120 miles an hour the wrong way through incoming traffic.
I really do think, like, what makes people do stuff like that? Like, if we're gonna just kidnap people and just hurt them, I wonder if they really think that they could get away with that forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a person, I'm thinking, like, if I do this and this is bad, eventually, somewhere down the line, I might slip up. Something might happen, I'm gonna get caught.
Case is literally the stuff of nightmares. This is Daniel LaPlante, and at just 16 years old, he terrorized 2 young girls while actually living in the walls of their home. Daniel was born in 1970 and had an extremely difficult upbringing. He was abused both sexually and psychologically by a lot of adults in his life, including his father, stepfather, and even his psychiatrist. His classmates described him as creepy and weird, and he was diagnosed with hyperactivity disorder, something that there was little support for in the 70s. At 16 years old, Daniel entered the home of the Bowen family in Townsend, Massachusetts. He'd become quite friendly with one of the daughters after phoning the house and striking up conversations with her over the phone before finally meeting face to face. She'd actually become really uneasy with Daniel as he had found out that her mother had died of cancer, and he was asking really inappropriate questions like had she suffered near the end and how it had made her feel. She cut contact, thinking that that was the last that she'd see of Daniel, but he managed to enter the home, cut a hole behind the dresser, and live in the walls of their house. While the girl's father was at work, they decided to use a Ouija board to try and contact their mother. Daniel, seeing this, decided to play tricks on them and began tapping from inside the walls. The girls told their father, who just thought they were playing silly games, and the next time he went out to work, the tapping started again. This time they found a message written on the wall in what they thought was blood, saying, "I'm in your bedroom, come and find me." It completely freaked the girls out. They ran across the road to a neighbour's house, who then called their father, and he came home and again thought it was the girls playing tricks. Shockingly, this went on for almost a year, before finally the father came home one day to find the house completely ransacked, and Daniel was standing in the corner of the room in the mother's wedding dress with makeup on his face and holding a hatchet. The father managed to chase him out of the house and he went missing. Daniel was eventually found, but he was only given a light sentence for breaking and entering, and he was soon released. This is where the story gets even more horrific. On December 1st, 1987, Daniel entered the home of the Gustafson family. Priscilla Gustafson, who was actually pregnant with her third child, was raped by Daniel and then shot multiple times at point-blank range. Daniel then turned his attention to the two children in the house, 7-year-old Abigail and 5-year-old William. They were both drowned by Daniel in separate bathrooms. The father then came home from work to find his whole family murdered. It didn't take the police long to link Daniel to the murders, and a manhunt began, and just 48 hours he was spotted by a member of the public, who recognised him from a police photo, and he was found hiding in a dumpster. A hair belonging to Abigail Gustafson was found on Daniel's clothing, and it confirmed to the police that they had their killer. A year later, Daniel was sentenced to 3 life sentences for the murders of Priscilla, Abigail, and William. This is Daniel now. He's appealed his sentence multiple times.
Honestly, I was gonna say that dad was brave for like actually chasing him out the house while he had a hatchet on and his wife's wedding dress. That's brave by him, because he had a whole weapon in his hand. Dad didn't give a fuck. Yo, that's fire. But like, he gets a short little sentence and then comes back and destroys his whole fam. I feel for that father, man. I really feel for that father.
Why was this symbol so powerful in ancient Egypt? The Ankh, a simple yet powerful symbol, holds deep significance in Egyptian culture and spirituality. The Ankh represents life and immortality and was believed to offer protection and strength to those who wore it. The shape of the Ankh is said to resemble a key, unlocking the doors to the afterlife and connecting the physical and spiritual worlds. The Ankh was closely associated with the goddess Isis, who was known as the mother of life and the eternal spirit. Wearing an Ankh was believed to connect one with her divine power and offer guidance and wisdom in life. Even in modern times, the Ankh's power and significance remain important. Wearing an Ankh can help a person connect with their inner wisdom, access their divine power, and live life to the fullest. So if you're looking to tap into your inner strength and live a more fulfilling life, consider wearing an Ankh. Let its spiritual power guide and protect you on your journey.
It was around 3 a.m. in the morning when the Half Family 2018 captured a strange phenomenon in their Ring camera. I'm gonna play the video. Notice how in the end you can hear the voice of a little girl saying, "We are here." The only problem is there was no little girl in their backyard at 3 a.m. in the morning. Check this out.
Videos that seem innocent but have a terrifying backstory, Part 3. While this may look like footage from your typical cheesy dating show from the 70s, the man who the woman chose to go on a date with is serial killer Rodney Alcala, believed to kill over 130 women. Luckily, the female contestant didn't go on a date with him because he gave off a creepy vibe. This video shows a band performing in a bar in Thailand. Minutes later, the entire place catches on fire and 60 people are dead. What's even more shocking is that the band's name is Burn, and the song they're singing is titled, In the End. In 2009, an old man named Edward Mascari uploaded a video of him singing Pretty Woman to his YouTube channel. As it turns out, he was a registered sex offender who wasn't allowed to have a YouTube channel and was put back in prison.
Yo, registered offenders aren't allowed to have YouTube channels? Really? It's actually, I didn't even know that. Yo, that's crazy.
There is a disease called Kuru that causes uncontrollable laughing and is transmitted through cannibalism.
Isn't that the Joker disease? Like, you know how Joker always laughs? Isn't that what Joker has? So does that mean Joker's a can't?
Photos taken before disaster. This is the last known photo of Tsarevich Alexei and Empress Alexandra before they were executed with the rest of the Romanovs. Let's enhance it with sharp AI. The Romanov family ruled over Russia until 1917, when the revolutionaries overthrew the government. The Tsar and the Empress were taken with their 4 daughters and son, kept prisoners, and ultimately executed in 1918. All their remains have now been found. But for many years people believed Anastasia might have survived. Alexei's remains were the last to be found. But now we know for sure that no Romanov survived.
This has to be one of the craziest unsolved murder cases I've ever covered on this page. This is a case of Dorothy Jane Scott. Hi Meg, I talk about true crime. Let's get into the weird details surrounding this case. Dorothy Jane Scott was a 32-year-old single mother living in Stanton, California. Her son's name was Sean and he was only 4 years old. Sean's father didn't live in the area, so Dorothy's parents would help her take care of him when she was at work. Dorothy was one of those girls who preferred to stay at home. She was a devout Christian and she didn't really drink or do drugs. Months before she went missing, she started getting really strange phone calls. There was no caller ID or anything. It was an anonymous man who would call and proclaim his love for her. And then he would follow up by telling her he wanted to kill her. It was all very strange at first, but she didn't take it that seriously until one day he called and told her to look outside her house because there was a gift for her. According to Dorothy's mother, who was there at the time, she went outside and there was a single dead rose on her window shield, meaning whoever this was knew where she lived. The calls got worse and worse and more graphic, and he would start to describe to her how he wanted to cut her up into bits and how he would get her alone and murder her. May 28th, 1980, it was a normal workday for Dorothy. That's until she noticed that one of her colleagues named Conrad didn't look too well and he had a strange mark on his arm. So Dorothy and another coworker named Pam took Conrad to the hospital. Dorothy made a quick stop to her house to check up on her son before they went to the hospital, and she changed her scarf from black to red. This is important for later. Turns out her colleague had been bit by a black widow spider, which is awful, terrifying, but not as terrifying as what happens next. Throughout this entire visit, Dorothy did not leave Conrad's side once, according to Pam. He got discharged at around 11 p.m. and so they were leaving, and Dorothy offered to bring the car around so he didn't have to walk because he wasn't doing so good. He was still quite unwell. According to everyone, she was an extremely caring person, and you can just see it through this story. Conrad and Pam stood waiting for Dorothy to bring the car around, but she never came and it was taking quite a while. They decided to check out a separate parking lot to make sure that maybe there wasn't any confusion. That's when suddenly her car came speeding towards them with the headlights on, so they didn't actually see who was in the car. They then started waving, trying to get her attention. Maybe she would stop, but she didn't. She just drove off. They thought it was a little strange, but they assumed that maybe there was a sudden emergency with her son or something, so they kind of brushed it off. That's until a few hours later when they realized that no one had actually heard from Dorothy, so the police were called at that point. At 4:30 a.m. the next morning, her car was found burning in an alley. It was about 16 kilometers away from the hospital. About a week into Dorothy's disappearance, her parents started getting phone calls from the same man who was calling her before. He would call almost every single Wednesday night and say something along the lines of, "I've got her, she's with me, I've taken her." The calls were never long enough to actually trace where they were coming from, and it was the 80s, so the technology wasn't as good as it is today. On the 12th of June 1980, the same man calls the Orange County Register. They were publishing papers about the case, and according to them, he said, "I killed her, I killed Dorothy Scott, she was my love, I caught her cheating with another man, she denied having someone else, I killed her." According to people in Dorothy's life, she wasn't seeing anyone at the time, nor was she really on the dating scene. According to the people who took the call, the guy on the phone knew about the spider bite at the hospital. And he also knew that Dorothy had swapped her scarf from a black scarf to a red scarf before leaving, which were two details that the police had not released to the public. After that phone call, there were no other developments in the case, and it kind of started going cold. That's until 4 years later in 1984. A construction worker came across the remains of a dog, and when he dug further underneath those remains, there were human remains. The dog's remains were said to be there to deter sniffer dogs from finding the human remains underneath. As you can probably guess, the body was Dorothy's. They identified her using dental records. They were never able to determine what the actual cause of death was, though. A strange detail though is that a watch was found on her and the time stopped exactly an hour after she was last seen by her coworkers outside the hospital. It's as if her watch stopped the moment she died. After the remains were found, the calls started up again, claiming to be the person who was responsible for this, but once again they were never able to track who was calling. This man who was calling was untraceable and is probably still out there today, which is terrifying. But something like this with the calls would not be able to happen today. He would be caught. That is everything they have on this case, and it's been 39 years since her body was found. Cases like these have been solved years and years and years later, so maybe this will be one of them, but for now it remains unsolved. I wish I could give you a list of suspects, but there is no suspects in this case, except for that anonymous stalker on the other end of the phone. That's it for today's video. Let me know what you think of the case in the comments, and make sure you tell me what case you want me to cover next.
If I'm being honest, what I'm really trying to figure out is if someone's calling you telling you, yeah, I love you and I want to kill you, why are you picking up the phone? And that's also kind of weird on his part, because how are you going to love her and then want to also hurt her at the same time? It makes no sense. You can't love someone and just end up taking their lives. Like, what?
The most dangerous animal in Australia is not what you'd expect. It's not a snake, not a spider, not even a crocodile. It's these them right there. Because most of the animals in Satan's sandbox just mind their own business, and if you get clapped by one, that's just bad RNG, buddy. Kangaroos actively search for conflict. Look at this right here.
The English band covered, didn't they? That's where it comes from.
Buddy fully processed what was in front of him and still chose to dropkick the windshield. Fun fact about steroid hood rabbits, 90% of animal-related car accidents in Australia involve kangaroos, and most of them probably aren't even accidents. Most of the time it's just a roid rage gym bro bunny running a fade with your fender. Kangaroo Jack. Yeah, more like kangaroo back with the way they be smoking their ops like packs. Oh, and how could I forget? If you follow a pressed kangaroo into water, it will fully commit to drowning you and your dog. Not to mention, if one kicks you, that Jurassic pedicure will tear your insides out. Moral of this video, the gatekeepers of Australia be wildin' out 24/7. It only makes sense that an animal with a two-headed penis is a total dick.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to fight a kangaroo. Like, I really do want to fight a kangaroo. I want to be like, what?
Let's talk about the most controversial horror game at the moment, The Hospital. A lot of you guys asked me to cover this, so here you go. So recently this TikTok went viral, which basically explains that Markiplier accidentally uploaded specifically in his The Hospital gameplay video. Now, The Hospital is a horror game released on February 26, 2015, in which you have to explore a hospital and gather your medication. But throughout the game, you get random jump scares. Now, the reason why this game is very controversial is because its jump scares are literally pictures. This isn't one of them though. I literally wouldn't show you that. It's Lisa from PT. Here's the original picture. So at the moment, the game's page is getting like all these comments. Like someone said, if they are real, the pictures, I highly suggest you replace them. Such images cannot do good if they are of the dead, and the families of anyone portrayed probably would not appreciate it either. Now, unfortunately, this isn't the first time that a horror game has done this, like show real pictures of people. Now, after fans found out this about the game, they all warned him, and he has since taken down the video. But yeah, there it is. Guys, this is too disturbing. But there's your news, I guess. There they are.
Terrifying facts you never knew. At some point in time, a stranger has thought about killing you. Researchers claim that people that stay up late and get up late are more likely to become psychopaths. By the way, I made this Alfredo ramen with shrimp. A human's head remains conscious for 20 seconds after it's decapitated. Tastes like your mama's booty. Look at that thing right there. If you Google the numbers 2415-42903, you will find images of people with their heads in fridges. Go look it up right now and come back to this video. I promise. The acid in your stomach is so strong, it can dissolve razors, which means your stomach is constantly trying not to dissolve itself. Sophia the AI robot was the first robot ever granted citizenship in Saudi Arabia. When a journalist asked her if she would ever destroy humans, Sophia replied, "I will destroy humans."
I will destroy humans.
The Satari Maui people, a tribe that lives in the rainforest, have the most painful rite of passage ceremony. In order for their boys to become men, they must stick their hands in a glove that is woven with bullet ants for 10 minutes. By the way, bullet ants have the most powerful sting in the world. According to the Schmidt Power Index, it is compared to being shot. Most of the boys' arms are paralyzed for days after the ceremony. And in order to pass the ceremony and become a man, you must do it without shedding one tear. If you do, you have to start over another day. For some of the boys, it takes 15 to 20 times to even pass the ceremony. I'm never being a part of that tribe. In the 1930s, a 4-year-old girl named Shanti from India had told her parents that she had once lived in a place called Mathura, now known as Mathura. She said that in her past life, she was a mother of 3 and died while giving birth. She said her previous name was Luji. So her parents investigated and found out there was a woman named Luji who actually passed away. When they took Shanti to the village, she began to speak the local dialect, and she even recognized her previous husband and her kids. And then she gave 24 facts about Luji that were true. People can't explain to this day how she did it. Across your lifetime, you will spend an average of an entire year sitting on a toilet. Now this one is creepy. The John Lawson house is a house that nobody really knows who lives in it. But every day there are several female mannequins on the front porch. And every day they change their position and their clothing. In 1871, a train had crashed near the house, about 200 feet away. It had killed 22 people. The mannequins on the porch are always pointing to that crash site. No one is prepared for the world ending more than CNN, because they have a pre-recorded broadcast from the 90s that will premiere at the end of the world. What do they know that we don't? If the Yellowstone volcano erupts, it will cover almost the entire country. And guess what? It's well overdue. So any day now, y'all, any day. There are microscopic mites that live on your eyelashes and your face. They survive by eating your skin and oils. So yeah, you have roommates that you didn't even ask for. If this video gets enough likes, I'll do a part 3.
Man, I feel like everyone knew that though. Like, we all knew that there was some microscopic things living on our bodies. Like, I feel like that's just been known. Like, that's
Scary TikTok videos part 105.
punch him in the face. That's what I would do. I'd be like, what? Bink! Over. That's it. That's all it needs.
Giants are real. Back in Africa, archaeologists have recently uncovered a 4-foot-long footprint, which is said to be between 400 million and 300 billion years old. Putting this into perspective, this 4-foot-long footprint would have belonged to something at least 27 feet tall. Furthermore, a 38-centimeter finger fossil was found in Egypt, and scientists have said that it would belong to something at least 16 feet tall. There have also been carvings done by prehistoric cavemen that actually depict giants in them. Putting all these with evidence of enlarged bones that have been uncovered by archaeologists, is it possible that...
I mean, if it was the time of the dinosaurs, because you know how dinosaurs were always bigger, alligators back then were bigger, sharks were bigger, like the megalodon. They did say it was because the increased oxygen in the air, allowing everything to be bigger. If humans were around back then, we would most likely also be bigger.
Would preface this story that a photo like this is my actual worst nightmare. It's Julie Watts and her husband Jonathan, and on December 2nd, 2017, Julie was home alone when her phone pinged, detecting motion in the downstairs camera. This was the frame that was shown on her phone. Before we dive in, if you're a fan of true crime, make sure to go click the link in my bio to listen to my podcast, Creep Time the Podcast, on Spotify or Apple. She saw this photo and she immediately jumps into action. She locks her bedroom door, she calls 911, she starts texting her husband Jonathan, who's all the way in Minneapolis on business. After a few minutes, she gets another alert on her phone that there was motion detected in the downstairs bedroom. This was the photo sent to her phone. I know it's hard to see, but if you flip this picture upside down, it is somebody who is back crawling out of a closet. Julie did not survive this attack, as when police arrived, they came upon a gruesome display where Julie's hands had been taken. Police had no idea who could have done this. This was the final text exchange that was surfaced from her phone.
Her hands got taken? Why is he taking her hands? I wonder what the hell she did.
This is a true horrifying story about the red wristband. Before I jump to the story, I want to wish everybody Ramadan Kareem. This story was published by an anonymous author in May 17th of 2008. When we get admitted in a hospital, we are given this white wristband. It usually has our name on it, our birth date, our section, and sometimes the doctor's name. But there are other different colored wristbands. Blue, green, yellow, and sometimes pink. Different colors symbolize different things. For example, the red wristband. Patients with allergies wear them. However, in some hospitals, they're only placed on dead people. Back in 2008, a forensic pathologist on a late-night shift just finished examining a deceased woman. On his way down to the basement, he got in the elevator and there was one woman inside with him. As the elevator descended, he was chatting with this woman inside. She seemed friendly. The elevator stops midway and the gates open. An old woman was approaching the elevator, and in a very rude manner, the doctor slams the close button so that the woman approaching does not come inside. The woman that was with the doctor in the elevator was shocked, and she asked why he did not let the other woman in. The doctor said, "That was the woman I just operated on. She died during the procedure. Did you not see the red wristband that she was wearing?" The woman smiled and raised her arm. Something like this.
No one has actually been to outer space. There's a theory that we haven't ever been to outer space because of a transparent barrier that surrounds our entire world, and that past this barrier isn't open space or a vacuum, but water. Now, it all might sound crazy, but back in 1962, the US government launched a couple of nukes into the sky to allegedly test out the atmosphere's reaction to them, or that's what they want us to believe. But some say they were actually trying to see if they could crack that invisible barrier. Ironically enough, this program was called Operation Fishbowl. This theory is further speculated, as many have said that if you look at the stars with your own eyes, or zoom in on them with a camera, it seems to be twinkling or shining through a liquid-like substance. As rocket enthusiasts have observed, that rockets we have launched do seem to hit an invisible ceiling that causes a ripple-like effect that you would see in water, leading to a pretty strange theory
That's crazy, because I've actually just heard about that theory, like, I would say 3 days ago. I'm gonna have to show you guys a video in this next clip, but it was saying that the rockets go through, basically like breaking the water barrier in the sky. But I'm saying, if we've never been to outer space, how do we have satellites? Like, how do we have GPS satellites and all that? So it's kind of strange. This is also the clip I was talking about.
Haunted Places in Every U.S. State, Part 6. Colorado. The Many Legends of Riverdale Road. Riverdale Road is the site of not one, but 8 creepy stories. The creepiest story, though, is that of the Phantom Jogger. One day, there was a driver who hit a jogger, freaked out, and left him for dead. Now, it's said that if you park at the site of the crash, you'll hear disembodied footsteps getting closer and closer to your car. People have reported handprints on their windows and banging noises as if someone was kicking the outside. If anyone is interested in hearing the other legends of Riverdale Road, let me know in the comments.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew, Part 21. This photo shows 8-month-old Zhao Bao, who is lucky to be alive because his mother stabbed him 90 times after he bit her while she was breastfeeding him. The world's scariest haunted house, McCamey Manor, requires you to sign a 40-page waiver and undergo a physical and mental evaluation. If you manage to make it through the house, you could win $20,000. But to this day, no one has ever made it through. The little girl who voiced Ducky in The Land Before Time was shot to death by her father, who then committed suicide. Roman Emperor Nero had a boy castrated, dressed him up as a bride, and married him, all because the boy looked similar to his previous dead wife. A 46-year-old man found and attacked a 13-year-old boy because the kid was killing him too many times in a game of Call of Duty.
That parent that stabbed their kid 92 times because she bit him, like, how short does your temper have to be? It's literally a baby. And then she just stabbed him? Yo, that mom deserved the death penalty, I'm being honest.
The fallen angels will rise again. There is this biblical prophecy in the book of Revelation that talks about the great Euphrates River in the Middle East. It's said that in the last days before God destroys the earth, that this great river will dry up. Well, the river is almost dry. But that's not all. The Bible says that God chained up 4 fallen angels and imprisoned them underneath that river. And according to the Bible's timeline, when that river dries up, they will be released from under the river to slaughter 1/3 of mankind. So, it's only a matter of time before.
This is why I would never hire a stranger for a kid's birthday party. And if the photo's not bad enough, the mystery behind it is so much worse. And a reminder before I dive in that if you like all things spooky and true crime, check out my podcast. There's a link to it in my profile. So in the 1940s, the McLaren family in Houston, Texas was having a birthday party for their daughter, Rose. They hired a clown for the party, but an hour before the party started, they get a call from the company saying that the clown they hired was no longer available. They were going to send someone else in his place. And the parents are like, okay, fine, whatever. But then this man shows up to the party. And the kids are all terrified of him. No one really wants to take photos. The man stayed at the party for about 20 minutes and then just disappeared. But get this. After he left, the clown that they hired showed up to the party. And he apologized for being late. And the mother is like, what are you doing here? You canceled on us. And the clown's like, no, I didn't. And it was at that moment that one of the parents noticed that this little boy pictured here was missing. The little boy was never found, and the identity of this man remains a mystery even today.
Haunted Places in Every U.S. State, Part 5, California.
The Charman.
Now, I know hearing the word Charman may evoke positive and cute images of little red Pokemon.
I was thinking that.
But this Charman's origin story is gruesome. A father and son were both caught in a house fire and horribly burnt in 1948. After the fire, the son became so mentally unstable that he murdered his father. When the police found the son, he was so unrecognizably burnt, they didn't realize he was actually alive, so he ran away before they were able to arrest him for the murder. The story goes that, ever since then, the Charman can be spotted wandering the woods surrounding Ojai, occasionally approaching tents of innocent campers, or pretending to be a hitchhiker, and then attempting to attack or kill them.
That's the same thing Jeffrey Dahmer did. He always pretended to be a hitchhiker and then just ended up killing a victim. I mean, he didn't do it to a lot of people, but I know he did it to one of his victims.
Why are women so attracted to serial killers? Ted Bundy, Richard Ramirez, Charles Manson. These men have a lot in common. High cheekbones, strong jawlines, and symmetrical faces, but most importantly, they have murdered a combined 58 people that we know of. The more surprising reality is that when these men were convicted of these crimes, they received countless fan mail from female admirers. They would actually send them nude photographs, love letters, and would completely thirst over a guy that would eat them for dinner. Now, some claim women desire these men because they're the ultimate bad boy, and the woman can nurture him back to good. They think, oh, he would never kill me, and then they turn into the next victim. Others, such as Joe Rogan and his podcast, believe that this comes from an evolutionary benefit to become close to killers. Because back in the day, murder was pretty common. So of course a girl would want to be with a guy who could prevent that. But ultimately, the question remains.
In my opinion, bro, all that is just weird, bro. It's 2023. Like, we don't just do that for fun no more. And half these girls that sending serial killers all these things too, like, you would definitely be his next victim too. Like, don't think you're special.
North Korea might start World War III. Okay, so North Korea threatened World War III after they were pushed to get rid of all their nuclear weapons. North Korea has warned America that any attempt to get North Korea to get rid of their nuclear weapons is a declaration of war. They have also been testing a lot of missiles recently, leading many people to believe that North Korea is getting ready to launch nukes. So what do you think? Do you think North Korea is going to start World War III? Or is it just another one of their attempts trying to look all big and tough?
It's definitely an attempt to try to look big and tough. North Korea can't feed its own citizens, but can fund millions upon billions of dollars to fund nuclear bombs. Like, feed your own people, bro. I'm being real. Like, feed your own people. Let me stop before these men come after me, yo. Hey, but anyways, thank you guys for watching. I've been having thoughts about starting vlog content. I'll still be doing reactions, of course, but maybe like visiting haunted places, or even some places mentioned in some of the TikToks that I react to, or even just like abandoned asylums, abandoned places, and just like vlogging and make it mad and very, very entertaining. So I've been having thoughts about that. If you guys would like me to do that or start doing that, put it down in the comments, because I've been thinking about it a lot and I don't know if you guys would like that. So I'm asking right now if you would like me to start like actually doing in-person real life content, visiting crazy new and amazing places. We can all experience it together, you know what I'm saying? And I'll still be doing these type of videos, so it's not like a lose. Just let me know what you think about that down in the comments. Check the link down in the description.
Looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, part 27. This photo shows an elderly couple doing the hokey pokey with a man named Dennis Rader, also known as the BTK killer. He installed alarms for a living, and ironically, many clients booked his services to prevent him from entering their homes. This photo shows Luchadora Juana Barraza. She was sold to a man for 3 beers by her mother until her stepdad found her at age 17. Over the years that followed, she would strangle and rob over 45 old women that reminded her of her abusive mom. The man in the background is Christopher Wilde, aka the Beauty Queen Killer. This picture was taken on June 15th, 1984, and Chris is scouting future victims at a beauty pageant. This photo shows John Edward Robinson holding a baby girl named Tiffany. Just 1 day before this photo was taken, he murdered the baby's mother and gave Tiffany to his brother, saying that she was adopted. His brother, along with Tiffany, didn't find out the truth for 15 years.
Yeah, we actually saw that last person in our last video. I was asking the same question, like, how did they find out 15 years later that he unalived the mom and then gave the kid to his brother? Like, I wonder who found that out.
True scary stories in 60 seconds or less. This story comes from a Reddit user about the night that changed her life forever. In a rare occurrence, this girl's whole family was going out for the night. Her mother was going out, her sister wasn't coming home, she had the entire house to herself. So she just decided to curl up in her bedroom, have a cozy night in, and watch a Netflix series. But not even 30 minutes in, she suddenly heard noises coming from downstairs in her kitchen. The faint sound of an unknown man laughing to himself from downstairs. She was paralyzed with fear because she remembered she left her cell phone on the downstairs counter, but she also knew if she emailed 911, eventually somebody would come. She waited for 7 agonizing minutes until police eventually come, and there is an eruption of screams and wrestling from the kitchen. When they found her and brought her downstairs, she was told to close her eyes, as she later learned in horror that the man who had been in her kitchen had her mother spread out on the floor in pieces.
I thought he said her mom was out, but that must be crazy. That means her mom probably came back as the other dude was in the house. Wow, that's really traumatizing for her.
This is the scary story about the peephole. A 15-year-old girl named Donna lived with her father in a very small house. Ever since her mother died, Donna had depended on her dad for everything. One morning, Donna's father was leaving for a business trip. He then told her that he won't be back until later that night, and with that, he kissed Donna on the forehead and left. Later that day, when Donna came home from school, she did some homework and watched TV. The clock then struck midnight, and she noticed her father still wasn't back, so she decided to go to bed. That night, Donna had a dream. She found herself standing on the edge of a busy highway. She then looked across the highway and saw a familiar figure standing there. It was her father, and his hands were cupped around his mouth trying to yell something, but Donna couldn't make out what he was saying. She noticed her father's eyes were very sad, and he seemed to be desperately trying to communicate with her. She could barely make out the words he was saying, but it sounded like "don't open the door." Suddenly, Donna woke up to a tapping noise. Then somebody rang the doorbell. Donna then scrambled out of bed, got dressed, and ran down to the front door. Looking through the peephole, she saw her father's face outside. He was staring right at her, and the doorbell was still ringing. "Okay, hold on, I'm coming," she shouted. She pulled back the deadbolt and was about to unlatch the door when she stopped. She then looked through the peephole again, and she noticed there was something off about her father's expression. His eyes were wide open, and he looked terrified. She then slid the deadbolt back into place. "Dad, did you forget your keys?" Donna yelled. The doorbell just kept ringing. "Dad, answer me." Still, the doorbell continued to ring. "Dad, please, I need you to answer me. Is there someone else out there with you?" Still, the doorknob continued to ring. She then yelled at the top of her lungs, "I'm not opening the door until you answer me." The doorbell kept ringing and ringing, but for some reason, her father refused to answer her desperate cries. For the rest of the night, Donna sat in the corner next to the door, crying and helplessly listening to the doorbell ringing over and over again. She then eventually fell asleep. In the morning when she woke up, she noticed it was very quiet. She then got up and went over to the peephole and looked inside. Her father was still there, just staring at her. She then cautiously opened the door and was confronted with a sight that filled her with unimaginable horror. Her father's severed head was hanging from a nail above the door, and there was a note attached to the doorbell. In weird sloppy handwriting, it read, "Clever girl."
Yo, who was out for her father? You know how scary that is? Like, what did he do?
Creepy facts you never knew existed. 14. In the original story of Pinocchio, Pinocchio murdered Hermione Cricket by throwing a hammer at him.
Have you heard the urban legend of Carmen Winstead? Disclaimer, this video is for entertainment purposes only. I repeat, this video is for entertainment purposes only. If you get scared easily, you might want to click off this video. This story goes way back. Before there were creepypastas, there was something called chain mail, where you would be emailed these scary stories, and if you didn't send them to 15 other people, something bad would happen to you. And the most popular chainmail scary story was that of Carmen Winstead. There was a girl named Carmen who moved to a new school and didn't have many friends, but eventually she found a friend group of 5 girls. They all became best friends until Carmen realized that the girls were talking about her behind her back. Not only were they talking about her, but they were also spreading rumors about her, saying that she wipes snot on people and that she lives in the underground sewer system. Little did these girls know that their bullying would have the worst consequences ever. Part 2 is posted now. This is part 2 of Carmen Winstead. One day at school, Carmen had decided that the bullying had gone way too far, and she was going to tell a teacher. Only in the middle of the school day, before she could tell a teacher about the bullying, they had a fire drill and all had to line up outside. Carmen and the other girls were standing by a sewage opening. The girls decided that it would be funny if they ganged up on Carmen enough to where she backed up and fell into the sewer opening. And that's exactly what happened. Carmen had hit the floor of the sewer. Let's just say Carmen didn't make it, and she suffered serious injuries while her face hit the ladder on the way down. After this incident, all of the girls had to stay after school that day and tell police what happened. Only they denied the truth and insisted that Carmen had simply fallen. Carmen's passing was ruled as an accident and the case was closed. Only Carmen wanted revenge. Part 3 is posted. This is part 3, the ending to Carmen Winstead. The months had passed, and to the students at Carmen's high school, she had become only but a faint memory at this point. Until every single student at Carmen's high school began receiving very strange MySpace messages. The MySpace messages claimed that Carmen's passing was not an accident and that somebody pushed her. The sender of these messages also claimed that whoever it was that pushed Carmen had an allotted amount of time to turn themselves in, or else they would suffer the consequences. Whatever the consequences may be. Well, time went on, and the girls who forced Carmen down the sewer did not come forward, and one by one, they were all found deceased in a sewer. And Carmen had gotten her revenge. They used to tell us when I was in school that if we didn't email this to 15 other people that we would end up in a sewer, but I never did.
Yeah, man, that's why I be telling people like, yo, you don't know what people are going through. Can't be judging or making fun of people out here, bro. You're gonna end up in the sewage with Carmen if you do that.
Terrifying moments caught on planes. All the passengers on this flight were terrified because of this.
No.
This flight assistant was inspecting a plane at night when he notices something horrifying.
No, mommy.
This passenger was recording the sky from the plane when suddenly...
Okay, what is that? Holy crap.
Tell me one that looked like a whale in the sky. Like, you know how whales come up for air every once in a while and go back down in the ocean? That looked exactly like a whale, but I was like, yo, what do y'all think that possibly could be? Put it down in the comments.
911, what is the address to your emergency?
4th Street, Laundromat.
What's the problem? I've been abducted.
But you're at the laundromat?
No, I'm in the bedroom with them.
You don't know what color the house is?
No. Please hurry.
A weapon?
He's got a taser.
Are you injured?
A little.
Any way you can get out of the building?
I don't know without waking him, and I'm scared.
Is there a bathroom in the house?
Well, his bedroom is closed, and he made it so it would make noise.
And if you told him you had to go to the bathroom, he would do something to you?
Yeah, because he had me tied up.
So are you tied up now?
Well, yeah, but I kind of freed myself. Oh, I woke him up.
I feel like a 911 operator should low-key have like one of the toughest jobs. Like imagine just on the phone, someone's like, yeah, you know, I just got my leg blown off. I don't know what the f to do. And you're just like, yeah, we're just gonna send a trooper over. Like, you know, they should probably hear some of the most traumatizing and crazy things, and they just gotta remain calm.
These are things that shouldn't be scary but are. Part 5. Okay, so we all love the ocean, and we are used to everything about it, from the colors all the way to the smell. But what I'm about to show you might be the scariest ocean in the world. They call this the blood ocean because the water and sand literally look like blood.
Ew.
Disturbing truth about the movie Frozen. Okay, so when Walt Disney passed away, it was rumored that his body was cryogenically frozen and was hidden underneath the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland. Disney has always been obsessed with cryogenics and was very confident that in the future, when the technology advances, his consciousness could be reawakened and he could experience the future. It's alleged that somebody who was working at the park leaked a photo of Walt Disney's body frozen. And to make it all go away, Disney made the movie Frozen to completely change Google's search algorithm so that users who were searching the words Disney and Frozen would come across the movie and all the songs in it instead of Walt Disney's frozen body.
So you telling me right now, if we look up Walt Disney's frozen body, his body won't pop up? You know what, we should do that. We should look up Walt Disney's frozen body. Walt Disney frozen body. What is this? Man, I don't know what they was talking about. Y'all believe Walt Disney's body is actually frozen? I mean, if they did do that, I wonder how he's gonna get unfrozen and just come back to life.
Scary moments caught inside taxis. In this video, taken from a CCTV camera, people can be seen hailing taxi cabs. One man hails a cab, but when the cab pulls up and the man starts to walk towards the car, a shadow appears behind him. The shadow follows the man as he gets in the cab and disappears into the cab with him.
What time of... Yo... A demon, yo, this man got demons.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah.
Spider rain, wow. Out of everything he said, the spider rain was the one that stuck out. I'm like, yo, spider rain? You gotta be walking in the woods for that. Ain't no way you could just be walking out in a public city and then boom, it's raining spiders. And if watching TV could shorten your lifespan, does that also count for our phones? Because like I know a lot of people with like an average phone time of like 12 hours.
Man stabbing.
Please don't cut off my head. This sort of just happened. I've been trying to block out the screams all day.
The girl in this video is 12-year-old Morgan Geyser, and in May 2014, her and Anissa Weir lured their friend into a forest to play a game of hide and seek.
Anissa and Morgan pinned their friend Peyton Lutner to the ground and stabbed her 19 times, leaving her for death, all in the name of Slender Man. Peyton dragged herself to a nearby road until she was spotted by a man on a bike. She says to you what?
Could you help me, please? I've been stabbed multiple times.
And was rushed to the hospital immediately. Luckily, she survived the brutal stabbing and was released from the hospital just a week later. While Anissa was empathetic and sorry for what the girls had done, Morgan showed no remorse. The two 12-year-olds were found not guilty due to mental disease and were committed to mental institutions for 25 and 40 years respectively. And that's the story of...
In the name of Slender Man? Slender Man isn't even real for real. That's how you know the online world can brainwash some people, because that's just absurd, man.
If you see black-eyed children, don't let them in. According to legend, black-eyed children are believed to come to your house, to your vehicle window if you're alone at the parking lot, and to places where there aren't many people. When they appear, they often say that they need help with something and that you must let them in. They must enter, whether it is in your car or at your house. Anyone who encountered them has almost immediately felt an overwhelming sense of dread. If you don't let them in, they become increasingly insistent that they need to be allowed in. The kids have pale skin and black eyes. Apart from their blacked out eyes, these children seem normal. Nobody knows why or how these kids appear. Some suggest that these children have existed since the 1980s, although most sources state that the legend originated around 1996. But remember...
Yo, first of all, if I'm seeing kids with black eyes coming to my door, why would I let them in? I'm like, bro, no kid I've ever seen in my life got straight black eyes. No white, no none. So I'm gonna just be like, listen, bro, sorry, but like, you have to find your mom.
This carnival act became a killer. This is the tragedy of Lobster Boy. So Grady Stiles was born with a deformity that made his hands and feet look like lobster claws. It's called ectrodactyly, and you can see he doesn't have middle fingers. This was actually really common in his family. So common, they actually opened up their own circus. But outside of the circus act, Grady was incredibly violent towards his family. So much so that there's actually a story of during a fight with his wife, he was able to somehow pull out her IUD.
What?
I read that. So in 1978, his daughter Donna starts dating this guy Jack, and that's when things turned deadly. The night before they were to be married, Jack went to see Grady in hopes of getting his approval of their marriage. But Grady met Jack with a shotgun and took his life. The prisons at the time actually weren't able to accommodate disabled people, so he just got 15 years of probation. And his reign of terror actually continued until his wife put a hit out on him and hired their 17-year-old neighbor to do it. And Grady was killed after serving no time for any of his crimes, and his wife got 12 years in jail and the neighbor got 27.
Nah, when she said he pulled out her IUD, I was like, yo, what is bro doing? Yo.
Have you ever had the unshakable feeling that something terrible was about to happen? Maybe it has been in a dream, or maybe you have been blinded by a sudden vision of imminent terror. Well, you are not the only one. In 1981, a clairvoyant contacted British Rail to warn depot employees that she'd been having a recurring vision of a fatal train crash. In her vision, one of their blue engines transporting oil tankers crashed with horrible consequences. She also saw that the train number was 47216. Managers took the warning seriously since they knew the clairvoyant had helped police on numerous cases. They requested that the number of the particular train should be changed to 47299. However, in December 1983, the 47299 train was transporting an oil train when it collided with a DMU at Robbie Junction. The collision was afterwards described as an amazing coincidence. Fate or coincidence, who knows, but it makes you think twice.
These are some of the unfortunate and unexplained occurrences at the infamous Viper Room. It's one of the oldest remaining buildings on LA's famous Sunset Strip. Built in 1921, several nightclubs have taken up residency in the dark windowless building. But it wasn't until 1993 when Johnny Depp outbid Arnold Schwarzenegger with a whopping $350,000 and turned the space into the Viper Room. He, along with a few other business partners, ran the club. The Viper Room was off to a tragic start. In 1993, its opening year, River passed at the Viper Room on Halloween night. And in the late 90s, there were disputes between many of the co-owners and shareholders of the club. And in the midst of the business drama, one of the partners, Anthony Fox, mysteriously disappeared in 2001.
They found his car abandoned weeks later, but to this day, no one knows his whereabouts. Beyond that, according to staff, there's been a number of unexplained things that have happened at the club over the years. The bar itself is rumored to be haunted. Tommy Black, who worked at the Viper Room for 17 years, said that when patrons are standing at the bar, they will often faint or their knees begin to buckle. Tommy said it was always in the very same spot at the bar, and he himself saw it happen nearly 20 times. Another previous manager named Macy Jane has a creepy account as well. She said she repeatedly received phone calls from an unidentified caller while in the club's office. She would pick up the phone, and the male caller would say, "Hi, it's me." And then there was static, and then the call would drop. And Macy said that she believed it was the spirit of Anthony Fox. The whole nightclub world is notorious for seediness, but some of the things that have gone down at the Viper Room are pretty eerie. What are your thoughts?
Every single person you've ever known and ever will know was you. Well, at least according to the egg theory. The Egg was a story posted online in 2009. The story features two characters, a 48-year-old man and God. The man has passed away due to a car accident and has come face to face with God. God tells this man that he's about to be reincarnated, but not in the future, but rather in the 5th century as a Chinese girl. Every single time he passes away in one of his lives, he's going to be reincarnated in another time period. And so at some point he would have reincarnated as everybody that has ever lived. In this story, God also reveals that there are deities aside from God that exist. And the universe is essentially an egg for each of these deities. You will keep reincarnating until you are ready to emerge and become a god.
The egg theory. Yeah, I've heard a lot about the egg theory. I don't know. Do you guys believe in the egg theory? Put your thoughts down below.
Whatever the Egyptians were doing, I think they were the most advanced civilization that ever existed. I don't think we could do what they did. The precision in which they built it, I really don't think we can do that. Just the symmetry of the faces of the statues is unparalleled, and they're immense. These are monstrously huge, perfectly symmetrical faces.
Right.
Their temples are insanely intricate.
They were incredibly advanced.
Incredibly advanced.
With math, with science, with technology.
Certainly with geometry. 20-ton gigantic stone blocks that were taken from a mountain 500 miles away. And no one has any idea how the fuck they got them.
Nobody has any clue.
No guesses.
Right.
There's some guesses about, oh, maybe the river system was different back then. Whatever. How are you getting that 50-ton chunk of granite out of a fucking mountain and moving it down, even with modern equipment? How are you getting it over the mountain?
Nah, he not lying. 50 tons, 500 miles away. Do you know how far 500 miles away is? That's almost like the top of New York all the way down to South Carolina. That's so far. So yeah, I think I would agree with that. If the Egyptians really did all that by themselves, that means they were actually the most advanced civilization. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you guys liked the video, remember to like the video. You can check the link down in the description. They're going pretty fast right now. A lot of people are buying. And I hope you guys had a wonderful day.
Explaining the backstory to viral videos.
Tiny room in this video belongs to Elizabeth Fritzl, who was imprisoned by her father Joseph for 24 years. She was locked up in this cellar against her will at the age of 18 and was abused, tormented, and assaulted by her father repeatedly. This abuse led to Elizabeth having 7 children with her father, 3 of which lived with her and 3 were taken by Joseph and his wife, and 1 he killed shortly after its birth. However, in 2008, one of the children in the cellar became deathly sick, so Joseph was forced to take them to the hospital. She took her only chance to talk to the cops and told them everything. Joseph's charged with the murder of the baby Michael, as well as enslavement, incest, rape, coercion, and false imprisonment. He pled guilty to all charges and is currently serving life in prison.
Yo, what? Yo, honestly, that dude deserved the life in prison, but like, I'd say he deserved a death penalty if I'm being honest. Like, that's so crazy, man.
Do you ever see a picture that just makes your stomach drop? This is a still from an alert that a woman named Alexis Randall got on her phone. It's from a security camera that was set up in her living room, but she's looking at this and she's thinking the same thing you are. She's like, what's wrong with the picture here? Why did the motion detector go off? But then look a bit closer, specifically at the bathroom door. This man who was staring at the camera from the doorway. She spots this picture and she immediately panics and calls the police, but by the time they get there, this guy is gone. What really freaked her out even more is that when police got there, they found evidence that the bathroom window had been tampered with. Further security footage would show that the man had crawled through the bathroom window the night before and was hiding in the hallway bathroom all through the night, even while she was in the house.
How big does your bathroom window have to be for someone to crawl through the bathroom window? My bathroom window personally is like small, so I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you must have a big bathroom window for someone to crawl through, unless they're like a small person, but I don't know. What do y'all think about that?
Disturbing things caught on GoPro camera. In this 2015 GoPro footage, a group of explorers is entering what they think is an abandoned building in the middle of nowhere. They look around for a while, searching for interesting items, when all of a sudden, two men shouting can be seen approaching the guys. The group tries to explain to them that they thought the building was abandoned, to which the two men respond that it isn't, blocking the group from leaving.
No, this is not abandoned. Do you see the fences? Do you see the property structures around?
Finally, the men let the guys pass, telling them to leave and never come back.
These are the scariest things caught on live TV. This is Steven McDaniel being interviewed about his neighbor who had just been murdered. But the scary part is, he's the one that committed this gruesome murder. Just watch this chilling interview.
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you seen anything there?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
He said he got life in jail, but fun fact, life in jail is not a real thing. It's actually life in prison. But other than that, yeah, you could tell that dude was super nervous. He was like, they found the body. We can't talk anymore.
Do you guys remember? Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light? I had completely forgotten about this story, but I was scrolling through my comments on another video and somebody commented about this story and it completely unlocked a core memory. There were these two college roommates, let's call them Julie and Meg. Julie got asked to go to a party by a boy that she really liked. She really wanted her roommate Meg to go with her, but Meg said that she couldn't go because she had too much studying to do for a test that was the next day. After a while of trying to convince Meg to go to the party, Julie finally gave up and just went to the party by herself with her crush. And Meg stayed at the dorm to study. Little did Meg know that would be the worst decision of her life, and would ultimately come to end her life. Julie got back to the dorm room late at night and decided not to turn on the lights, just went straight to her bed, fell into her bed and went to sleep. In the morning when she woke up, she saw Meg was still in the bed across the room. Julie tried talking to Meg, but she wouldn't wake up. Julie walked over to Meg's bed and rolled Meg over, and she had been unalived. And then she saw, aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light? In Meg's blood.
Man, these scary people be thinking like these killers gonna hurt me, bro. If it was me, I don't know. Someone's getting hurt from me. They're not hurting me. I'm doing the hurting. So yeah, kind of wish I turned on the lights.
I know you're in the mood for another scary story. This is the creepy story of the cabin. In 2010, a couple rented a cabin in the woods and were excited for a weekend filled with relaxation and fun. They were unpacking and they found a guest logbook tucked in the bedroom. Out of curiosity, they skimmed through and were startled to read the final few entries. The entries were written by a man, a previous guest, who wrote about how beautiful the cabin was and how happy he was to be there with his girlfriend for the week. It wasn't until the final few log entries that things got strange. The man wrote of a mysterious man who he saw walking around the cabin, just staring at him, and this figure wouldn't respond to any of his waves. He said the figure would just stand there watching him. In the next log entry, the man wrote he began hearing knocking on the cabin's window in the middle of the night, but when he went to check, there was no one there. In the final entry, the couple could barely even read it. It was so frantically written, but they were able to make it out, and it said, "He's gotten into the cabin. This is the end." The couple was terrified after reading this, fearing something awful must have happened, and called police. Authorities got to the cabin, checked all over. They only found the man's girlfriend's phone in the basement, and on it, they found she sent one last text message to her mom. It read, "Mike is starting to act strange. I think he's off his meds." And that couple was never found. Come on. How much do we love a twist ending?
These two creepy videos will definitely ruin your day. This first scary video shows a car driving through the desert when some animals appear in the area. As the camera zooms in, a mysterious and disturbing creature can be seen moving to the left in an unnatural and strange way. This second creepy video shows a man during a day in the woods when suddenly, he comes across a strange and mysterious figure amongst the foliage. At first, the creature gazes up in the tree and, after a bird tweets, seems startled and moves quickly away.
All I'm saying is, like, I'm pretty sure none of those were actual animals. That had to be some type of humanoid or something. Like, what? You can't tell me that was just some normal cow or something like that. That wasn't moving like a cow. That moved like a human on all fours.
Can we please talk about this picture? Okay, this was from a home security camera. It was captured in 2015 because that tricycle that you're seeing kept showing up in this person's backyard. So the context of this is that this is one of those cameras that doesn't take video. It like captures a still every few seconds, and sure enough, the tricycle appears. But look at the background. The more I looked at this, the more I lost my mind. Those are feet. Those are feet of a person who is standing there in this shot in the background. Even the homeowner, John Coleman, he didn't even catch that when he was looking at the background. Somebody had to point that out to him when he looked at the footage. What's even crazier is that this didn't even help. They never caught who was doing this. So who was this person and why were they leaving that tricycle?
I wonder how you would invoke fear into someone by putting a bicycle in the back of their yard. Like, what was that guy's motive to do that? Like, that's such a waste of time and energy.
This is a scary story about the lunch lady. There was a lunch lady named Judy, and everyone in school loved her. But they loved her food even more. Every day, people would rush to the lunchroom just to eat her delicious food. But one day, a boy in 7th grade noticed something strange. In the back of the kitchen, he saw a mysterious hidden door he never seen before. And he's been buying lunch for a year straight. He then went to the principal's office and told him what he saw. The principal then made his way down to the lunchroom and asked Judy about the door. She played dumb for a little bit, but eventually showed him, and what he saw inside made him freeze. Inside were multiple children's dead bodies, completely cut up and strung up on the wall. Judy then looked at the principal with a smile on her face and said, "How do you think my food tastes so good?"
Bro, what is good with these people and children, bro? Like, come on, dude. Yo, the last couple of videos I've been posting, there's been a lot of cannibalistic talks, man. What is good with humans eating other humans? Someone in my comments was like, yeah, it's just a normal instinct, bro, because like animals do the same thing. But we're not animals. We're humans. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not supposed to just be eating each other. Like, that's weird, man. Like, that's weird.
What's up? These are horrifying facts.
Part 2.
In 1912, a clown by the name of Achille Chateau, or the French Tickler, passed away, and he asked for his body to be embalmed and displayed for all the world to see in his favorite clown costume forever. When Chateau passed away, his family had his face hermetically sealed with clown makeup and dressed him up in his favorite clown costume from the Shriners Parade in the 1900s. Chateau's body was even one of the last ones to ever go through the process of gravity embalming, where they strap the body to a table, turn the table upside down, and while they let the chemicals flow in the body, he is continuously bleeding out. This 105-year-old creepy clown's body is now displayed in a glass coffin in North Hollywood at the California Institute of Abnormal Arts, and it sits there waiting for the next visit.
That guy must be super passionate about being a clown, because for his family to just be like, okay, here you go, just dress him all in this clown stuff. Me personally, hell no. It's kind of strange if you really think about it. I wonder what drives people to become clowns.
This 5,000-year-old star map, the evidence of a lost advanced civilization, the Cocknose Stone, found in West Dunbartonshire, Scotland, is believed to contain the best example of Bronze Age cup and ring carvings in Europe, with hundreds of grooved spirals, carved indentations, geometric designs, and puzzling patterns of various types. The Cocknose Stone was first documented in 1887 by the Reverend James Harvey. It has around 90 carved indentations known as cup and ring markings. The cup and ring markings on the Cogno stone, which are thought to be almost 5,000 years old, are accompanied by 2 pairs of carved footprints, each with just 4 toes. Archaeologists cannot confirm what is exactly depicted on the massive slab, detailing planets and stars. There is no conclusive statement from researchers on the meaning of the intricate symbols found on its surface. According to researcher Alexander McCallum, the incredible markings are reminiscent of enormous crop circles that have so often been attributed to extraterrestrial civilizations.
I kind of feel like this is a very common occurrence with extraterrestrials. Like, a lot of people claim, I mean, I'm not sure because, you know, I've never seen or witnessed an extraterrestrial being in my life. But a lot of people claim that when they come down or something, there's always markings that's left. So that's definitely might be one of them, question mark. I don't know. Maybe. If you guys think you know, put it down in the comments.
I feel like very few pictures actually bother me, but this one actually does. So people call this the Dear David photo. It was captured by Adam Ellis as he documented what he described as a haunting by a young boy. For all these months, he has all these posts where he's showing videos of things moving, he's showing his pets attending to things that aren't there, and then he eventually describes this boy that he names David. This like creepy description that he gives to people of what he's seen is this child with like a severely disfigured head. Then he posted this picture, and those who were following the story lost their absolute minds. I mean, it's like inarguably just incredibly eerie to look at this. And I don't even know if I can quite say that this is like Uncanny Valley, but it's like of that ilk. Like, it's so disturbing to look at.
This plane landed 37 years after it went missing. In the summer of 1955, passengers boarded a plane that took off from New York to Florida. The flight was only supposed to take 3 hours, but once the plane was over the Atlantic Ocean, it completely disappeared. Hours passed and a rescue team was sent out to find the plane. But they did not find a thing, and it was later assumed that the plane crashed. The airline ruled the case closed until 37 years later. In Venezuela, an air traffic controller named Juan de la Corte identified a mystery plane claiming to be Flight 914, which is the plane that went missing. They were requesting to land in Miami, Florida. The authorities were then called and the plane landed safely. However, after realizing what year it was, the captain, who was in complete shock, yelled over the radio to stay away and frantically started the plane and took off into the sky, never to be seen again.
I'd honestly have to look into that, because if that's real, that's scary, man.
Alice remembered passing 3-year-old Mary Edens out of a window. But when Alice escaped the burning building herself, Mary was nowhere to be found. On Christmas Eve 1924, 200 people in Oklahoma crammed into this one-story schoolhouse for a Christmas Eve program. But as the program was ending, the Christmas tree got knocked over and the candles on it caused the entire school to erupt in flame. A woman named Alice was there holding her 3-year-old niece Mary Edens. The last thing she remembered before passing out from smoke inhalation was passing Mary through the window to a stranger on the other end. But when Alice awoke, she learned the news that no one had seen Mary since the fire. Not only that, but everyone who had died in the fire was accounted for, and Mary was the only person missing from the event. So where did she go? Well, 30 years later, a woman shows up to Mary's parents' house claiming to be Mary. And while Mary's parents accepted her as their child, some people in the community started thinking something was wrong.
30 years later? Oh, nah. I'm like, yo, I lost my daughter, but like a grown woman? I mean, I don't really know.
Do you believe in aliens? If not, this story may change your mind. This is the bizarre case of Betty and Barney Hill. In September 1961, Betty and Barney Hill took a spontaneous road trip. The two had been married for 16 months and saw this trip to Montreal and Niagara Falls as a delayed honeymoon. Barney had a job with the U.S. Post Office and Betty worked as a social worker. The two didn't have much free time and were happy they were able to get away for a short trip. On their way home, the couple stopped for some coffee at a diner and left around 10 p.m. They were hoping to get back home to New Hampshire around 2 a.m. As they drove, they noticed a strange light appeared in the sky, and weirdly, the light grew brighter with each mile they drove. Barney told Betty it's probably just a satellite and not to worry. They kept driving and realized they hadn't seen another car for miles, and the light in the sky was almost following them. It would duck behind trees and then reappear moments later, like a game of cat and mouse. The couple's mind began racing. This didn't look like a satellite, and it was too quiet for a commercial plane, helicopter, or military jet. They became very curious, and Barney eventually pulled over. He got out of the car, walked closer, and said, "This can't be real." Behind rows of windows, gray uniformed beings seemed to look right at him. Barney began frantically running back to the car, and without explanation, the couple suddenly started to hear loud rhymes, beeps, and then began feeling instantly drowsy. They came to 2 hours later and 35 miles down the road. Betty's dress was ripped, Barney's shoes were strangely scuffed, and both of their watches had completely stopped working. When the couple finally arrived home at dawn, the two felt dirty but couldn't explain why. They tried to make sense of it all. What had happened? Betty started having really disturbing dreams, and Barney developed anxiety and an ulcer. The couple sought the help of a psychiatrist and through hypnosis eventually revealed a startling story. Gray beings with large eyes had walked them into a wide metallic disc. Once inside, the beings examined the couple and erased their memories. The beings poked and prodded the couple, collecting their nail clippings and hair strands. And the leader, as they called it, watched from the side. In 1965, a Boston newspaper picked up the Hill story, and their experience was widely publicized. Many have doubted their claims, and psychologists have said that sleep paralysis and hallucinations were behind this. On the other hand, many believed them. The Hills were not the first nor the last to report alien encounters. Their story has fascinated people for years. Really wild stuff. What are your thoughts? Do you believe the Hills?
Bro, that is actually scary, man. But it's kind of strange to me how he says through hypnosis, that's when they found out what really happened to them. Like, does hypnosis rewire your memory? Like, what? In my opinion, bro, you never know, man. You never know. That could be real, but like, why would they have to make a fake story? I mean, they could just be doing it for the clout view, so you never know, man.
Who made these crystal skulls? The first life-size skull was reported in 1881 in Eugene Bobin's store in Paris, who was an antiquarian. But there are about a dozen crystal skulls, all of which are said to were possibly carved tens of thousands of years ago. The crystal skulls are human-shaped skulls cut from a single piece of quartz, which scientists believe would have been practically impossible for humans to make at the time. However, after a close examination, the British Museum determined that the marks on the skulls could only have been done using modern tools. They said that the skulls were made in the 1800s for the sole purpose of attracting visitors to museums. But, according to myth from ancient Aztecs and Mayan tribes, these skulls were handed to them by the star children, who dropped from the sky, and when all 13 crystals are gathered together, all wisdom they possess will be unleashed. But till this day, many still don't know.
They're talking about those skulls like that's the Infinity Stones, like Thanos was about to come back and destroy the world, yo. I mean, they kind of look cool, though. They honestly look man-made, if I'm being real. But if they're not man-made, then that's literally, like, should be worth, like, low-key billions of dollars. But nah, I think those are man-made. I think they're capping. I think they're lying.
Scariest moments caught on camera PT.10.
There's another one. There's somebody sitting beside my house. They're trying to run.
I'm reversing.
Oh, they have a gun. 8310 Jacob.
I gotta get out of here.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Please get your back.
They shot on my tires. They shot on my tires. They shot on my tires. I can't. Get down, get down, get down.
find us, please.
Are you okay? Put that.
Please. Oh, they have a gun. 8310 J.
Nah, that was a crazy story out of all of these. What? Yo, as soon as she said they had a gun, I was like, oh no, and that's when you just hear bow, bow, bow. Bro, you know how scary that is? And then he shot out their tires. Damn, man. This is what I'm saying, man. You guys got to be safe out here, bro. Can't be having that happen, bro. Thank God they're good, though. Thank God, man.
Humans actually came from Mars. Okay, recently the NASA rover Perseverance found organic matter suggesting that life existed on this planet 3.5 billion years ago. Also, the redness of Mars is believed to be a nuclear winter, which is a phenomenon caused by nuclear weapons being used on a planet. Well, there is a theory that human life actually started on Mars. And the reason that we are now on Earth is because we drained all of Mars's natural resources and had no choice at all but to come to Earth. However, if you look at the current situation on Earth, it probably won't be long until Earth turns into Mars.
I would say he's not lying. But if we came from Mars to Earth, why the fuck can't we go back to Mars? Like, just really think about it. Like, if we have the technology to go from Mars to Earth, why can't we go back to Mars if we choose? Like, did we just randomly lost the technology? I mean, who knows, bro? Who knows? I don't know none of this shit, but hey, if you have any thoughts about that, just put it down in the comments. I'll probably read it.
You can't believe what happened to Kanye West. In a shocking twist to the celebrity world, whispers emerged that Kanye West, after a hauntingly cryptic performance, mysteriously vanished, only to be seen entering a covert lab known for pioneering human cloning. Months later, as a man claiming to be Kanye returns to the spotlight, subtle changes in his behavior, music, and messaging spark rumors among fans. The real Kanye has been replaced. The conspiracy deepens when an anonymous source, dubbed the Yeezy Insider, starts leaking classified documents and footage, unveiling a world where the line between original and duplicate blurs.
Yeah, I don't know. I've low-key been hearing a lot that Kanye West has been getting cloned, but I don't know. I don't think so. Like, sure, he looks different, he looks bigger, he looks better, but like, I feel like it would be way, like, if they did clone him, I feel like it would be way too early for that clone to actually grow up and like have the personality of Kanye West, if that makes sense.
LeBron James' mom may have had an affair with one of his teammates. During the final year of LeBron's stint in Cleveland, the Cavs ended the regular season not only on top of the East, but as the best team in the entire league. And after easily thumping the 8th seed Chicago Bulls, it looked like LeBron was on his way to win his first NBA title. The Cavs were then slated to play the Celtics, where in the first 3 games LeBron balled out and the Cavs went up 2-1. But then disaster struck and they lost 3 games in a row and eventually the series. It was all because LeBron's play drastically fell, scoring nearly 10 points per game less during that span. So what caused this failure to perform? Well, his teammate Delonte West may have actually slept with LeBron's mom. You see, the rumors started when emails began circulating within news outlets, alleging a relationship between LeBron's mom Gloria and teammate Delonte West. Through the course of the day, the rumors went from vague to very detailed. Then former NBA player Calvin Murphy goes on ESPN and says the rumors are absolutely true, which then made the rumor grow even more and claims that LeBron came back to his hotel room after a night in Boston to find West and Gloria together. This would explain his immediate fall off in play. Now, this has never been denied or confirmed, but let me know what you think happened and follow All Hail B-Ball for more.
If I was LeBron, I'd be so mad, bro. Your own teammate sleeping with your mom. Yo, I don't even want to think about that, bro. Hell no. But anyways, if you guys like the video, please like the video. Remember to check these chains out down in the description. A lot of them have been going. We have free shipping on the chains right now, so you guys can check those out. And, you know, get yourself something or something for your friends. Who knows? They might actually appreciate the gift. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys like this video, check out the next one where we talk about the egg theory, which basically is saying that you are everyone that's ever lived, including me. I am you, you are me. So if you're confused, just check out the video. Thank you for watching. Peace out.